Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If, with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Chose the Path of Villainy? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Not everyone is born equal was something Izuku learned at the age of 4. Beaten up and bloody was the state he was found in for the most of his childhood. Then that fateful day came. The building is burning down. The panicked screams of civilians rang across the streets as Centureach, the biggest shopping complex in Hosu City to date, exploded in a ball of ember following a supposed villain attack. The young Izuku watched through his computer as one man, despite the raging fire, stood up from the rubbles with a triumphant smile. "Don't worry, for I am here," said the bling hero. "Mom, I want to be like him," said Izuku with enthusiasm. "It's possible, right?" His mother, however, didn't answer back. "Mom," he repeated as tears welled up in his eyes, "I can be like that, right? All I need is to be strong. Isn't that right?" No answers, just a hug as the two burst into tears. A few years later, "Oi Deku, what you doing?" A grown-up Bakugo stared down at him. "Oh, Kakenhai. I was just, Izuku mumbled, clutching his notebook. It was her mother's birthday gift to him. It even has All Might's signature hair strands, acting like bookmarks. "Gimme that." Bakugo snatched his notebook right out of his palm. "Hey, give that back," Izuku cried. "Why?" Bakugo said in a sadistic fashion. "Aren't we friends? I know what you're gonna do. Now give it back before Before you what?" Bakugo cut him off. Two other guys showed up, his friends, probably. "Well, look at that. This kid wants to be a hero," Bakugo yelled out loud as everyone in the classroom laughed in unison. "He doesn't even have a quirk," someone in the crowd said. "And look at that. He sketched a superhero costume in his notebook," laughed another. "Does his lack of quirk also explain his lack of originality? Mighty? What kind of stupid hero name is that?" laughed another. This is normally where Izuku would fight back, thrashing. But he has been laughed at and beat up so many times that he was used to it at this point. Instead, he just raised his arms helplessly as the crowd pelted him with erasers and crumbled up candy bar wrappers. "Now listen up here," Bakugo said in a more serious tone, grabbing him by the collar. "This world doesn't need worthless trash like you as heroes. You are but a stepping stone to my rise." While Izuku trembled in fear while looking into Bakugo's eyes, nearly wetting himself, he tried to mentally prepare himself for physical harm, as he was used to the years of insults that was thrown at him. But just then, Bakugo said something that pushed him beyond his boundaries. "So go crawl under the rock where your stupid idol All Might crawled out of." Just then, Izuku clutched the arm that was holding him up, and squeezed with a surprising amount of strength, forcing Bakugo to let go. "Don't disrespect All Might," Izuku said with a face that radiant in pure rage. "You stuck-up, overconfident assholes don't hold a candle to him. So take that insult and shove in back in the gaping black hole which is your ass where you're pulled in out of." Bakugo went silent as Izuku immediately realized what he just did, jumping back in instinct, expecting only destruction to follow. Instead, to everyone's surprise, Bakugo walked calmly up to him, gave him back his notebook, which he was surprised to find was still in perfect condition to his surprise, and left the room. Izuku was both relieved and terrified as the bell rang, signaling the end of the day. Bakugo didn't lay a hand on him, which, judging by his personality, could only mean one thing. What he was about to do was too brutal to be done in school grounds. As the students were leaving the school, Izuku made a mad dash for his bike. He knew that if he was caught by him, he was dead. Dashing across the road with a hint of panic, he soon made it to Sunny Park, where he always ran off to cool his head. As he felt the coast was clear, he started to slow down. "Found you?" A sudden blast was felt, as Izuku was sent flying from his bike. He then saw Bakugo. "Kaken, I told you I was sorry." "Well, sorry just isn't going to cut it, you motherfucker," Bakugo said, beating him over the head. Izuku felt blood running down his face as he touched his nose. It was broken. I'm going to break you beyond repair. Bakugo yelled, kicking him while he was on the ground. Bakugo picked him up by the arm. It seems that this is your good arm. It must be where you sudden got the guts to stand up against me, he said with a devilish look of anger that just pissed me off. Only the strong was the say on everything. Worthless pieces of shit like you should just all die, he said, beating him like a punching bag. You're no hero, mumbled Bakugo. The words dug deep into a bruised and bloodied Izuku. Now get lost, trash. Bakugo dropped him before picking up his bike. He then turned towards a limp Izuku. Izuku only caught a glimpse before wheels met his face of everything went black. Hours later, Izuku woke up. The sun was setting and his body was still aching. He saw that his bike was in pieces and that his notebook was completely destroyed. He grabbed what was left of his bike and limped home. Hey, at least this day can't get any worse, right? I've got to just keep going. Sorry, kid, said a shriveled up All Might. I didn't want to write this entire scene cause we all know how it went. Izuku's lively eyes that were once filled with hope went pale. What? Asked Izuku. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but I can't let a kid lose his life in an attempt to pursue my path, he said, as his hair formed a shadow over his blue eyes, masking his guilt. You liar, mumbled Izuku. Huh? Asked All Might. You liar, cried Izuku to the top of his lungs, as he knelt down to the floor, crying. Look, kid, I'm sorry, said All Might. Look, I know what might cheer you up, he said while reverting to his muscle form, pulling out a ticket. A special VIP Plus ticket to the All Might fan club. All Might got in return, however, was a blow to the abdomen, which he barely felt as Izuku violently thrashed at All Might with all of his strength, but to no effect. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate everything about you. You talk about how everything is possible, yet go back on your words when you find out someone is quirkless. And yet you still have the guts to believe that they will remain your loyal fan. You're a hypocrite. A liar. Deku then ran off, not even paying attention to the fact that they were of a tall building. Before he left, however, he turned around and mumbled, You're no hero, and then he jumped off. Only then did he realize and regret his actions. As he flailed around in midair, however, he felt two muscular arms take hold of him. It was All Might. I'm taking to you back home. Isn't that wonderful? You can tell your friends that you meet All Might and that he brought you home, All Might said in a desperate tone, trying to pass off an apology, but to no avail. Home was never more welcoming, but at this point, anything was more welcoming than what he went through. It was not easy to hold back your tears in front of your mother or your idol, the man that you looked up to for all of your life turned down your dream. It was emotionally draining to say the least. Izuku? Is everything all right, sweetie? Inko asked in a worried tone. Yeah, everything's all right, Izuku said, rushing upstairs before his mother could see his injuries. He reached his room, his only safe haven. But it looked different. Everything in that room that he loved her so much, that he spent his entire life decorating, disgusted him. But he knew it wasn't the room that changed. He was the one that changed. In a violent upburst, he ripped off every All Might poster in his room, threw away all of the hero posters that he had, the plushies and merchandise. When his rage finally quelled, he saw that his room was flipped upside down, but at that point he didn't care. Everyone has betrayed him, turned him down, classmates, his mother, even his personal hero. He laid in bed, rethinking all of his life's decisions, and cried. Just then his laptop, the only thing that wasn't thrown away, turned to a breaking news. It was another villain attack. While the initial words didn't grab his attention, the distant cries of a familiar voice did. He jerked upwards and launched to his computer screen. What he witnessed shocked him. It was Bakugo, but he was trapped, held hostage by the same villain that attacked him earlier. You crept down his spine, but not for the reason you'd think. He wasn't shocked at the horrifying scene that was happening before his eyes. Is the people getting hurt, those trying to run to safety, the cries for help in agony, nor even the villain itself. Rather, why he was enjoying all of this. He couldn't help but emit a small chuckle for every time someone was hurt, especially since he recognized half of the people in the crowd. It was mostly his classmates, the ones that laughed at and ridiculed him. He was hitting himself, telling himself that this is wrong, that he should be worried. But the impulse was too strong. Ah! Scream. Scream in agony. Now you see who's having the last laugh. All of the anger built up in him leaked out of a form of psychosis, as he started to laugh maniacally. Tears streamed down his face. It was a moment of bliss, and for once, he dreaded the arrival of the heroes. He didn't want any of this to end. For once, he wanted to never hurt for I am here, again. Izuku woke up in his bed earlier than usual. He touched his pillow. It was wet, probably because he cried himself to sleep last night. The reason why? He had completely forgotten, but he is still certain of one thing. He will never look at heroes the same way again. That faithful encounter with All Might have just killed his hero career before it even began. Too dangerous? Not strong enough? Those words were stuck in his head, and has jammed the needle deeper into his bleeding heart. His lack of quirk was so laughable that even the hero he sought to be like his entire life looked down on him? This is bullshit, he said to himself. Looking at the clock, it was 5:30 a.m., about an hour earlier than his usual wake-up time. Laying back down, he attempted to re-enter his sleep, where he could at least dream to be a hero, but to no avail. He couldn't sleep, not with crying away all of his energy beforehand. Getting up, he saw no reason to stick around, so he quickly made himself breakfast and ate in front of TV. There was currently an interview taking place with a recent hero named L'Oreal who had a hair manipulation quirk. He used to love this channel as a kid, as all the inspiring speech he always felt like were directed to him. But something about this interview nearly made him hurl. And remember kids, anyone can be a hero, as long as you stay healthy and always take L'Oreal vitamins. It was common for heroes to advertise their own products, but all Izuku could think of after hearing that was All Might's fan club VIP special cards he tried to give him in order to hide the dream he just Detroit smashed. It was disgusting and obvious commercialism. What Izuku found saddening, however, was that none of that hero's words were reaching like they used to. Getting rejected by All Might was a real drag to reality for Izuku, and now, most of the words the confident-looking hero said he felt would not have been used when addressing people like him. He then froze. People like him? You're right. What he meant was only him. For the record, he was the only quirkless human on planet Earth for all we know. It was depressing. Why him? He thought as tears streamed down his eyes. Why him? It was at times like this where he would go to the park or the mall to clear his head. After all, there was no rush. It was a Saturday, the usual day where he would go do things outside, like a walk in the park, or to a mall, where he would stare and admire the local pro heroes showing off, or maybe, if he was lucky, bump into some passing UE students. Speaking of UE, he knew that the hero entrance test was going to happen soon, and he used to be real excited. It was just next year and he will soon be a pro hero in training, but now, heroism just doesn't appeal to him anymore. He simply wished to relive the same adrenaline rush of happiness he used to get when helping someone, but that was only because it was what passed off as saving someone to him. The mall would probably be a good place to start, Izuku said to himself, looking at the clock. Inko woke up just as Izuku headed out. Walking downstairs, she noticed that the TV was left on. Izuku must have left it on before he left, she said to herself. While making breakfast for herself, she looked out the window to see her child heading towards Main Street. I just hope he's okay, she said to herself as, contrary to Izuku's belief, she knew Izuku wasn't feeling well. She just didn't have the heart to ask why when she heard the thrashing. The day was beautifully sunny, and the fresh, spring wind blowing through Izuku's hair was soothing, a therapeutic treatment Izuku came up with when he felt down. Enjoying life's aspects that didn't need quirks his initial way to cope with his problems, and he was relieved to find out it still worked even after his denial phase. Goddamn wind, cried some passerby about his age, it's messing up my hair. I spent so much time brushing so wouldn't look like a porcupine. You should have used hairspray, buddy, the strong kind, said the other. Oh, trust me. It would take a whole can to immobilize my long hair, replied the other. Izuku didn't much attention, as he was approaching his destination. While the mall was usually most late grade schooler and high schoolers' hangout spot, it wasn't easy capturing such results when you have no friends. Well, almost, but it was pretty obvious Bakugo was more bully or acquaintance at best. Besides, he was probably back home, still recovering from yesterday's villain attack. The sudden though of Bakugo however made him shudder. Memories that were once hazy in his head had become crystal clear. He was enjoying the suffering of others. He was never sadistic, far from it, so the mere thought of laughing at a pair of eyes crying for help was gut-wrenching. What has become of him? It was these kinds of thoughts that he came to clear, but now he realized that it was clearly not working. But he couldn't just lash out. He was in the middle of a shopping district, and chances are he was gonna embarrass himself. Trying to find somewhere secluded to sit down, he realized that most stores were empty, even some shops had 0 customers, or even cashiers and employees for that matter. What's going on? Izuku said out loud. Suddenly, he heard a large crowd of people. Running towards the source of the sound, he found himself at the center court of the massive mall, where a massive crowd was gathered. One would try to push to the center to see what's going on, but it was very obvious to Izuku what was going on. A hero is making his great debut. Kya, it's L'Oreal, cheered a group of fangirls. Oh great, that twat is here? Apparently there was a supposed villain attack, and the glamorously fashioned hero just so happened to be around, signing autographs. Yeah, kick that villain's ass. This is where Izuku would try to squeeze to the middle of the crowd, trying to get a full view of the situation, but now, heroes just don't amaze him anymore. Look out! The villain's jumping towards you, yelled one of the bystanders as the masked man, badly wounded, ran towards the crowd, before jumping into the air with all of his might, trying to make it to safety. Izuku heard the yell and turned around, only to see the villain laying prone in front of him. Just then it was as if time had slowed down. Izuku and the villain stared at each other like 2 deers caught in a headlight. Izuku didn't want to, but his eyes was doing it on its own. He was reading the villain's emotions through his eyes. He felt panic, sadness, humiliation coming from him. Then, as if it was his own imagination, but he heard something. Help me! Help me? A villain, the people he sought to defeat for his entire life, people viewed by society as criminals, wants help? Suddenly, hairs came through the crowd, grabbing the man by his ankles and dragging him back. Oh no, mon ami. Yes, I made him French. We are not done here, he said, strangling him. Izuku froze. For a brief moment, what he saw was not a villain, not someone he was supposed to run away from. For a moment there, all he saw was a poor, weak, tortured kid with no means to defend himself getting bullied by those who were stronger than him, just because they can. Kinda like, me? Himself? Is that villain really like him? His world started to crumble. Was he really that similar to that villain? He gazed at the crowd. They were not horrified, they were pleased. Pleased? They are watching a man fighting for his dear life and… What are they doing? Laughing? Cheering for his assailant? Filming this? Where are the real heroes to come and break these two apart? Where is the reasoning behind this? So it's okay to harm the weak just because you are a so-called hero? Izuku clenched his fist, turned around and ran. These people are crazy. No, they aren't. The heroes, they made them crazy. These so-called heroes claim they fight for justice and equality, but what are they really? Bullies. All of them are just like Kakin. I hate them. I hate them, he thought, running to an empty hair salon. Back in the crowd, the villain was on his knees, as blood dropped down his cut-up face. Please, I just needed money for my sick brother. If you can take me into custody, at least take care of him, he pleaded to L'Oreal. Ah, oh my God, look at him. He's crying. Wasn't he so serious when he tried to mug me? Said one of the girl who was his supposed victim. Sorry lad, villains don't deserve my courtesy. L'Oreal smiled. Finish him, yelled a group of his fans. The villain curled into a ball. Please help me, someone, he said softly as tears streamed down his face. Suddenly, 3 cans were thrown at the hero as a kid wearing an all-might jacket and a face mask with bunny whiskers coming out of it came running in. Don't worry young, even though he's older than him, men, said the kid like landing in between them. The cans exploded as the hero tried to grab them out of thin air, releasing a light mist that covered L'Oreal's head. For I am here. And who are you? Said L'Oreal in a pissed-off tone. Shit. I didn't think this through. All I had in mind was to hide my identity and rush in to save the man I didn't think ahead. Okay, Izuku, just think of something. If you thought, I am anything. The villain. The crowd went silent. Then came a sudden outburst of laughter, including the one from the hero. Just then, the man on the ground pulled out a knife and stuck it to Izuku's neck. One move and the kid dies, he yelled. The crowd was silenced, so was Izuku. Kid, listen, the man suddenly whispered into Izuku's ears, which was surprising even for him. I'm not doing to kidnap you, but if you want to live, we need to cooperate. Suddenly, from hearing that, he knew that the villain was on his side, and a grin formed under his face mask. It's fine, if we work together, we can defeat him. Izuku whispered back. Wait, what? You want to work with me? Shouldn't you be on his side? He whispers back, looking towards the hero. It's a long story now, what is your quirk? Izuku asked quietly. Not much, all I got are these mini cannons I can form under my fingernail that fires needles. That's just the quirk I need now. What's your name? Sachiko, just call me Sachi for shorts, said the man. Well, Sachi, follow my lead, said Izuku. Listen, we don't have to go through this, just let the boy go and I assure you, nothing back will happen, said L'Oreal, trying to negotiate. You want him? Come and get him, said Sachi, letting Izuku go as he suddenly charged at him at sprinting speed. Good, now eat justice, villain, said L'Oreal, not realizing that Izuku was planning on attacking him. Special attack, hair fist. L'Oreal's hair formed into fists that flew towards Sachi, but to his surprise, its speed was greatly diminished and Sachi was able to dodge it easily. What's wrong with my hair? Why can't it move properly? Asked L'Oreal in shock. It's hairspray, said Izuku. Those cans you crushed were cans of hairspray. What? L'Oreal screamed. And you're about to get a second dose. Sachi, no, Izuku said, opening him jacket, revealing several cans of hairspray underneath. Got it. Porcupine barrage, yelled Sachi, firing at the cans Izuku tossed into the air. The cans exploded, covering L'Oreal and Izuku all together. My eyes. I got hairspray in my eyes. I can't see. L'Oreal cried in pain. This is what you get, said Izuku. What? You talk about justice, yet you pick on someone who has already surrendered for your own sadistic ends. You're no hero. Then what does that make you? L'Oreal cried as all of his fans started running away and as he tried to make his hair budge by even an inch, but to no avail. Izuku grinned sadistically at his comment, and without any moral or emotional backlash this time around, as if he was finally getting the revenge he longed for so many years. Isn't it obvious, Mr. Hero? There are two sides to this story, you are the hero and me? I'm the villain, he said, smiling under his mask, before inserting a pair of barber scissors into L'Oreal's stomach. Sirens ran in the distance as L'Oreal collapsed against the center fountain, staring at Izuku with fearful eyes. The green, lively, mad eyes emitted a gleam that pierced into his soul, making him tremble in fear. Izuku walked slowly towards him, smiling sadistically as he raised his bloody pair of scissors. Hey kid, the cops are coming. It's time to go, yelled Sachi in the distance. Suddenly, Izuku snapped out of his trance. Eyeing down at his victim distributed a pungent feeling of shock throughout his system, making him pant heavily and sweat as he dropped to his knees. What was that? What the fuck was that? He thought as he felt a strong pull as Sachi grabbed him and ran. When the police arrived on scene, the duo was long gone, leaving the place trashed. Looking towards the center fountain, they found L'Oreal, slumped over and trembling with fear. As the head chief went up, he noticed his stab wound and requested immediate backup. The news agency and ambulances arrived soon after, as they draped the trembling hero in a medical blanket and interrogated him in the ambulance. Tell me, L'Oreal, what happened? As the police chief. The trembling hero looked at him and mumbled. I'm quitting. Excuse me? Asked the police chief. I can't face that, not a second time. L'Oreal responded. Face that? Face who? Izuku popped into L'Oreal's head once again as he curled into a ball. A true villain. Izuku found himself in an alleyway, not the most welcoming place to wake up in, but he was too emotionally drained to feel fear, or any emotion at all for that matter. All he wanted to do was fall back asleep and hope it was all just a bad dream. That man, it wasn't him, it couldn't be. He would never have enjoyed the suffering of others so thoroughly. Was it the satisfaction of finally fighting back that gave him such enjoyment? Was it the bloodlust? Him just getting too into his role as a savior of who he believed was the real victim? He didn't want to think much. All he knew was whoever that was, he would prefer just keeping him locked deep within his subconscious. "So you're finally awake," said a familiar voice. It was Sachi, who was sitting on a pile of boxes right across him. "You're still here?" asked Izuku. "I've been here, waiting for you to wake up," said Sachi. "How long was I out?" asked Izuku. 2 hours, I wouldn't say from fatigue, rather, emotional shock," responded Sachi, before springing upwards and rushing to Izuku. "Now tell me how you did those awesome tricks," he said with a suddenly burst of livelihood and excitement. "Tricks?" asked Izuku in confusion. "Yeah. You know, the thing you did back there against Boreal," he said, purposefully modifying his name. "Are those?" "I just threw hairspray at him, it was said to be able to keep hair still," responded Izuku. "Whoa. I never thought of that. You really know how to improvise." "Man, I envy you," said Sachi. "Envy?" He who was bullied since youth, laughed at for his ambitions, having his dreams crushed and grounded by those he cared about and admired, the only living human being, possibly, to have no quirks was being envied upon? "Do you actually mean that?" asked Izuku. "Yeah. I've always admired smart and dedicated people like you," Sachi said with a suddenly depressed tone. "Shame I wasn't the same. I am a slow thinker and give up easily. I just wish I could have a quick brain quirk like yours." Izuku felt his built-up hope crumble once again. A quirk? He envied him over a quirk he doesn't even have? He knew it. Nobody wants to be like him. He's just the notebook example of rock bottom. "Sorry to burst your bubble, Sachi. I have no quirk," said Izuku in a saddened tone. He could see Sachi's eyes take up a shocked expression. "So you are quirkless?" asked Sachi. "Come on, left. That's the only thing that's missing now," he thought, bracing himself for the pity laughs he was showered in for years. "That's even more awesome. My boy. You're a young genius," Sachi cheered while shaking him. Izuku was confused by his joy. "Wait, so you're not gonna laugh at me?" asked Izuku. "Why would I? And why should I? You can defeat a man who spent 3 years at UE training his quirk to defeat other quirk users all without any special powers. You have no special powers, but that's what makes you special. Now come here, my partner," Sachi said while giving him a huge hug. Although, something about all this just didn't feel right to Izuku. How could this be a villain? He was so cheerful, so encouraging, and he did what an actual hero, nay, the #1 pro hero and the man he admired all of his life couldn't do. He believed in him. "How could someone like you be called a villain?" Izuku asked in confusion. Sachi let Izuku go from his bear hug and answered. "Well, I hurt people. Frankly, I was surprised someone actually came to save me back there," said Sachi. "Of course I had too," said Izuku. Sachi sat down and looked him directly in the eyes. "Look, kid, I've killed people in the past. I've been convicted of robbery and scamming. People like me are the kind of guys you'd see in prison. Because I had to is no answer to my question, so I'm gonna ask you again. Why? Do you save me?" Sachi asked in a serious tone. Izuku clenched his fist. "Because you looked like you were in need of help. Yet because of your status, people neglect you, ridicule you, and turn away from you. And I know how that feels. Because of my lack of quirk, my mother is overprotective and doesn't let me follow my dream of becoming a hero because she thinks I might get hurt. I get picked on at the park and at school because I have no means to defend myself. There are times where I would spend my entire day looking at videos of other heroes, because they have the life that I want. But even they turn me down. I spent my whole life crying for help, yet no one came. So when I saw you on your knees begging, I didn't see a villain. I looked into your eyes and I saw myself," he cried out. At that point, the tears just kept going. He always suffered, was always left in the dirt. All of his problems, his sorrow, his inner demons, he just wanted to cry them out, to have them leave in body. Being able to finally let out his frustrations was just too much for him. Feeling lightheaded, he dropped to his knees, but luckily, Sachi was there to catch him. "It alright kid, just breathe," said Sachi. "Sachi, what are villains really like?" Izuku suddenly asked. "While we may look merciless on the outside, many of us are still human on the inside. Of course, there are hundreds of exceptions, but for the most part, we were just born under the wrong star. Whether it was abusive parents, a poor family, or having a family member that holds a criminal record. The sad part is, due to these circumstances, we were never able to live a normal life, so we rob and sometimes even kill just to get by on life. We are the ones heroes should be helping, yet they prey on us like we were never welcome in the first place," answered Sachi. "I can see that. I've always had a feeling of not belonging, yet no one seemed to care about me. It was as if there's just always meant to be a hero and a villain," said Izuku. "That's what I was thinking," ranted Sachi. "They claim they want peace. Shouldn't that mean reduce the amount of villains instead of whack a villain if they show up? Duh." Izuku started to leave the alley. "Where are you going?" asked Sachi. "I see what these heroes truly want now," said Izuku. "What they want is fame. And what better way for a hero to become famous than to beat of bad guys? I now see. Villains are just the people society selects to hate. The weak that only exists to be preyed upon. I'm not standing for this. If it's a villain they want." Izuku clenched his right fist as he lifted his dirted All Might hood and hid his face in his mask. "Then it's a villain they'll get." "Izuku, I was so worried," cried Inko as she hugged Izuku the second he came through the door. "It's fine, Mom, I'm fine," said Izuku, smiling happily. "Well, you look like you had a good time today." "Something happen?" asked Inko, noticing his smile. "Oh, nothing, I just came through a breakthrough," said Izuku. "I now know what I really want to do when I grow up." "Really? What is it, Izuku?" asked Inko. Izuku smiled. "A hero," Izuku lied, before running to his room, leaving his mother confused. "Didn't you always want to be a hero?" Izuku asked, but to no response. Running into his room, he opened his laptop, only this time, he wasn't searching for heroes, but for villains. Their names, quirk, usual locations where they appear at. He needed to know who he could trust. One villain, however, piqued his attention, and his name was Kai Chiaki. Soon after, he opened a book hidden under his bed, the one he knew he couldn't bring to school since Bakugo would have destroyed it. His own, handmade hero encyclopedia. The book contained the names, quirks, backgrounds, and sometimes even weaknesses of all known heroes he observed and noted through the course of nearly 5 years. He knew that since he didn't have a quirk, he was going to have to counter other quirk users. But he knew that since he was going to be fighting heroes, he would need to team up with other villains, hence he needed his own villain identity. After an hour of scribbling, he finally came up with his new identity. Mightless, the hero hunter. It's been only a few weeks since Izuku became a villain, and he has built up quite a reputation in the criminal underground. While many villains call him the Messenger or the Rabbit, most just know him under the alias, Mightless. While the media and the hero associations haven't picked up about this upcoming threat, cases of newcomer and veteran heroes losing have become more and more frequent, as villains have defeated, and in rare cases, even killed pro-heroes in action. Many new pro-heroes making their debut had their careers sent to an early grave due to the recent criminal activities. Izuku himself, however, had never felt any better. Before, he was unsure whether he should take this path, but with time, he got used to it, and started making deals more and more often with villains, trading info for money and weapons. Before he even knew it, it was already the end of the first semester. Hell yeah! 1 week of freedom! Cheered the classroom as the vacations kicked in. Izuku was just as excited as everyone else, especially since he could now focus on his villain business a lot more. He had to meet a certain client anyways, so when the bell rang, he ran out of school faster than everyone else, with lively green, innocent eyes hiding his twisted intentions. Suddenly, he felt a pull on his back collar and was stopped dead in his tracks. Time may have went by, but some things never change. "Yo, Deku," said a familiar face. Izuku sighed as he put up his old Izuku act. Hey Kaken," Izuku said, trembling in fear, but not really. "Listen, buddy," said Kaken. School's about to end and you're looking way too happy for my taste, so since I won't be seeing your face for the next 7 days, I might as well implant a much more pleasant image of your face in my head so I won't think of you and your stupid toothy grin. Oh great, here we go again. I'll definitely kill you one day, Kaken, thought Izuku as Bakugo's face met his fist. Oh please. Mercy. Izuku begged while crying fake tears. Now that's a face I can think of while touching myself, thanks buddy, said Bakugo, picking Izuku up by the head, before slamming him face first into the pavement. As Bakugo left, Izuku got up. He brushed off the dust and wiped off the blood from his nose, putting on his outfit, which was a modified All Might jacket that's been recolored to black and gray, with red hair strands and a new face mask, which was originally a giant smile, but Izuku wears it upside down, so it's a frown instead. Just you wait, Kaken, we will see who has the last laugh, Izuku said to himself. Izuku arrived at his designated position where he was gonna meet his client. Several dead bodies of the police lay in the abandoned, run-down building he was in. Seeing all the dead corpses, Izuku couldn't help but let out a sorta girlish giggle. This kind of carnage would have made him puke back in the days, but after all the gangs and villains he did business with and all the fights we witnessed and was sometimes involved in, he started to enjoy seeing the arrogant, braggy, stuck-up face of a hero or foe twist into despair. It was a sort of satisfaction of seeing suffering inflicted upon those who deserved it that gave Izuku sort of a sadistic edge, one that he desperately tries to hide in from of his mother, whom he deemed was pure and deserving of much more. Suddenly, a black shadow leapt behind him, alerted by his laughter. It seems you did some work here, said Izuku without turning around, hero killer Stain. You seem to have quite a solid reputation in the criminal underworld too, hero hunter Stain responded. Izuku turned around, blushing. Please, you're flattering me, said Izuku. I'm but the villain equivalent of a carrier pigeon, why would I deserve such courtesy? Stain smiled. My job is to kill these posers society calls heroes. And when I do so with brute force and skill, but you use your head, a rarity in the criminal world. In the span of a week, you united 3 feuding criminal gangs, exposed 4 pro-heroes' identities, who were later killed at their own home by grudge-driven villains, saved 7 villains from known organizations' form capture and even took out a pro-hero single-handedly. I think you're worth a lot more than you think. Izuku smiled. Did I really do so much? He said while tilting his head. I didn't really keep track to my activities, maybe I underestimated myself a bit, said Izuku, but I guess my combat training paid off. Alright, enough with the chit-chats, you got the stuff? Asked Stain. Yup, answered Izuku as he opened his bags and retrieved 3 red vials, the blood samples of Positive, a reference to the My Hero Academia prototype one-shot, Red Nose and Darkness Blade, One Punch Man refenses, yay. And the price? Asked Stain. I'm not asking much, just for you to demonstrate to me your fighting style, said Izuku. Wait, is that all? Asked Stain, confused. Yeah, it's just blood for the benefit of your own quirk. Blood curdling was it? The ability to paralyze those whose blood you lick, couple that with your combat experience and you got yourself a first-rate assassin, Izuku said while smiling under his mask. How? How did you know? Stain yelled pissed off as he rushed towards Izuku. I don't just analyze heroes, Stain. Sometimes there are villains that are just in it for greed, I don't stand for that. Now, show me your fighting style, said Izuku, putting the vials into his pocket as Stain threw several knives at him. Izuku quickly rolled back, picking up one of the dead cop's pistol and firing it at the hero killer. Stain saw the pistol and ran out of the way, before appearing behind Izuku and slashing at him. Izuku was barely able to dodge, as the blade left a cut in his jacket. Stain then jumped back and threw more knives, to which Izuku ducked under, but once again, Stain ran in and slashed at him. This time, however, Izuku took a good look at Stain. So that's it, he commented, interesting. Stain then jumped back and sheathed his blade, while clapping his hands. You did well, I did not expect some brat like you to make it this far. However, you committed the grave sin of putting your nose where it doesn't belong, now you'll die. But Izuku simply flashed a smile at him, taunting him. That's it, you're dead. yelled Stain as he ran in. Just suddenly, as he came in range, he felt his right foot step in something liquid, causing him to slip and slice Izuku's pocket. Walking towards Izuku's paralyzed body, Stain bent down and said, "You made a good trade partner, shame it's time to put you down," Stain said while raising his knife. Suddenly, Izuku sprung to life as he whipped out the cop's gun he was took and pointed it directly at Stain's forehead. "One move and you're dead, now drop the weapon and on your knees or I'll shoot," said Izuku. Stain, with widened eyes, dropped his knife and knelt down as Izuku stood up, looking down on his defeated opponent. How? How can you even move?" "I licked your blood," Stain cried out. "Oh, did you now?" asked Izuku, taking his available hand and reaching into his pocket, and pulled out a cut-open blood vial. "Ooh? You placed that there, didn't you?" Stain grunted, unable to accept his defeat. "Yup, I'll admit, you almost had me. Sadly you didn't see me as much of a threat and exposed me your fighting style," said Izuku. "Huh? What do you mean?" Stain asked in confusion. "You use your quirk as a means to secure your victory, hence why you attempt to make me bleed by throwing knives. Though I will admit dodging those knives were sheer luck and that I would be dead otherwise, you then attempted to kill me at close range, which led to your downfall," explained Izuku. "What do you mean?" asked Stain. "You see, every blade, depending of their size, weight and length, has a sweet spot where if the user swung it, can deliver a lethal cut that's just deep enough to not get your blade caught by bones but get a deep enough injury and to slowly kill your opponent. But sadly, once you find that sweet spot, you only use that sweet spot. And by swinging at me twice, I was able to judge the approximate range where you stop to swing, which is where your opponent can take advantage of." Izuku continued to explain. "So that means?" Stain said as he looked behind him, and saw a broken vial with blood all over the floor, and a footprint where he slipped. "You bastard, you used me to test out your analysis skills under mid-fight situations, didn't you?" asked Stain. "Indeed, and I am happy to know it works perfectly. Now, I don't want to kill you either, so let's just walk away like this never happened, okay?" asked Izuku. All of a sudden, the sound of someone clapping was heard. As Izuku turned his head to see who was doing it, however, Stain took advantage of this moment of distraction to hit the gun out of Izuku's hand and put him in an arm lock. "So, now that, Mr. Analyst?" Stain said with a hint of anger. "Stop it, both of you." A sudden voice was heard, a man dressed in black, with a white hair and hands covering his face and grabbing onto different parts of his body. Stain let go of Izuku and backed off, knowing he was not welcome here, and jumped out of the window to escape. "Great, you scared my client away. Anyways, who are you?" asked Izuku, picking himself off the floor. "Greetings, I am Tamura Shigaraki, I am the lead representative of the League of Villains, and we've taken great interest in you," Mightless, the man presented. Izuku's eyes widened. "Wait, League of Villains? How big is your organization?" asked Izuku, getting excited after finding out there was an entire organization of villains. This could be his first ever big business dealings. "Your organization is meant to bring down the Hero Association and especially the #1 hero, All Might, and after observing your actions and indirect contributions to the League, we think it's about time we recruit you," said Tamura. The thought of killing All Might made Izuku's heart leap with joy. He couldn't wait to get payback on the person who crushed his dreams for good. But then it hit him. "Does All Might have any weaknesses?" asked Izuku. "For the record, no. Odd for you to ask that out of the blue," replied Tamura. Izuku wanted to hug the man and give him a kiss, though it wouldn't be possible with his hand in the way. What luck. He was the only one who knew All Might's true weakness. He can now use this knowledge to bring him to heat top of the league. "Anyways, if you're interested, just give us a call, we'll give you time to think about it," said Tamura, handing him a business card, before heading into the shadows. "Hey, wait," Izuku yelled, but it was too late and the man had disappeared into the shadows. "A teleportation quirk?" asked Izuku. But he couldn't think about that at the current moment. Instead, he ran home into his room before Inko could even call his name. He jumped onto his bed before thrashing around in joy. The boyish, lively eyes of Izuku were brighter than ever. He kept in thrashing until he was sweaty and tired. Looking at the business card, he knew he couldn't leave to meet the guys at this hour, meaning he was gonna have to go tomorrow. Instead, after eating dinner and watching some TV, where it was reported that Positive was hospitalized after suddenly being paralyzed mid-fight during a villain attack, Izuku went upstairs. It was a week of vacation he knew he will never forget. "Alright, I'm heading out, Mom," Izuku said with enthusiasm. "Alright, sweetie, take care." Inko replied as Izuku left. "He's been quite energetic lately, maybe it's just a part of growing up?" "Oh well, as long as he's happy," thought Inko, not giving it too much thought. Izuku was told to meet up at an awfully specific location. There wasn't even any address, it was written in longitude and latitude, so he spent all night pinpointing where that was. Unsurprisingly, the spot was quite far away from his house, so he had to go by subway. On said subway, he saw posters advertising Yui, with All Might on the front cover saying, "We want you." "Disgusting," Izuku murmured. "Yeah, it's absolutely horrid," said a voice next to him, surprising him. Izuku, surprised, turned around and saw a young girl with blonde hair, staring at the same poster. She was wearing a sailor uniform, with a cardigan that seemed 2 sizes too large for her. From what he could tell, her body emitted a strong aura of insanity. "Sometimes, I just wish I could reach into that poster and drag All Might out of it, just to beat him to a pulp." The girl continued, smiling. Can I help you?" asked Izuku. The girl didn't answer, she just backed away, slowly sinking into the crowd. Izuku didn't have time to wonder what that was about, as the subway had arrived to his stop. Not losing his excitement spirit, he dashed off the subway and continued his journey. The structures looked more and more run down as he continued to walk to his destination. Knowing he was close, he put on his outfit, masking his face, and met face to face with what seemed like a run-down bar. "Is this the place?" Izuku asked himself. Then again, they are villains. I doubt they would just have a giant 30-story building with a huge League of Villains logo smack dab in the middle of downtown. This was to be expected, but for a supposedly massive organization, they certainly could have picked a bigger building to call a hideout, thought Izuku. Suddenly, a knife came flying at him, as he was barely able to dodge, and grazed his face. "Stain? It can't be," Izuku said out loud while holding his cheek. But it wasn't Stain. Instead, a cloaked figure rushed towards him, a much smaller one. Izuku, with a hint of panic, took up his backpack as a shield, blocking an upcoming knife. He then kicked the assailant, knocking her back. Suddenly, out popped another figure, one who dropped down towards him, but was unable to hit his nimble body. "I don't know who you people are, but don't you think I came unprepared?" said Izuku, pulling out a pistol from his back pocket and firing it at his assailants. The taller of the two took 2 bullets to the head and went down. Why did he just stand there and take it? He thought. But in that moment of confusion, the smaller one closed the distance and tackled him to the ground, holding a knife to his neck. "Gotcha," the cloaked figure said with content, before unveiling herself. "Wait, it's you," yelled Izuku, the girl from the subway. Suddenly, a black hole appeared and one came Tamura, followed by a dark figure with some sort of black mist coming from his body. "You've done well, Toga," the Shadow Man said. "Now, let go, he is our guest." Suddenly, a man that looked exactly like the guy he killed came out of the black hole. "Hey, new guy. You're not too bad," he congratulated Izuku. "Still needs training, but not bad." "A cloning quirk, that explains," thought Izuku. "Follow us, Mightless," said Tamura, signaling Izuku to follow him. As Izuku entered the black mist, he found himself in a small, cozy bar. It was completely different from what it seemed like on the outside. Tamura sat down on one of the swirling chairs. "Mightless, welcome to the League of Villains," he said. Izuku looked around. He saw the 2 villains that assaulted him earlier, along with the shadowy guy, who seemed to be the barkeeper. "Don't tell me that I'm looking at all of the members," said Izuku. "Oh no, we are a massive organization spanning several branches. The 2 assailants that attacked you are part of our Vanguard Action Squad, which had several dozen members," Tamura explained. "Well, tell them I would have appreciated cake next time they decide to throw me a welcome party," said Izuku, still slightly pissed off from that previous attack. "Oh, sorry, we were just testing to see where you would fit within our ranks," Tamura said before taking up a much more gloomy tone. Suffice to say, I was underwhelmed. I saw you outwit Stain, who has killed several heroes, but you were unable to fend off my men. You, sir, belong more in the front line. Izuku gave an arrogant smirk. I'm not the fighter kind of guy, and frankly, I don't appreciate you judging my worth via fighting abilities, replied Izuku. Oh, he's playing the tough guy. I'm into that, said Toga, staring at him from a distance, blushing. Then what are you good for? Asked Tamura, in an impatient tone. I'm an info provider, didn't you get the memo? I only provide my clients with infos and suggestions, they do all the dirty work. Very rarely do I fight myself, and even when I do, it's to finish off the weak and wounded, said Izuku, so being a mere grunt in this organization just doesn't suit me. Instead, I would request being put in your vanguard whatever squad. Tamura looked at him from head to toe. And what makes you think you have what it takes to be in said squad? Asked Tamura. Izuku was waiting for this moment. The mere thought of it made him giddy. Because I know All Might's fatal weakness? Izuku said with a smile, as his eyes seemed to almost glow in the shadow of his hood. The whole room went silent. What? All Might has a weakness? Tamura asked impatiently. A fatal one. One that you can use to easily defeat him, said Izuku. Shame that I won't be in this organization, so this information will be lost forever. Izuku said, intentionally getting up. Wait, we can talk about this. Tamura yelled in sheer excitement, almost falling off his chair, only for Izuku to chuckle at his clumsiness. Okay, now I really like him, Toga said, staring at Izuku with dreamy eyes. So you will let me be in your top ranks? Izuku asked back. Just. Tamura got back up, regaining composure. Let's hear about this weakness first. Izuku sat down on the counter, ordering a drink. The shadowy man passed him a glass of soda, which Izuku slashed into his face. What is this? A daycare? Hit me with the strong stuff, said Izuku. You're not in legal drink age, young man, said the shadow. Who cares? We're villains, we don't give a shit about rules. Now, pass me some damn fire water, barkeep. Izuku yelled out. Fair enough, and call me Kurogyri, he replied, passing a pint of amber liquid, which Izuku downed in one gulp. It was bitter, but Izuku didn't mind. This is his big day, and he wants to enjoy it as much as possible. So, about All Might's weakness, Tamura said. Right? Izuku replied, opening his backpack and spreading a bunch of documents over the countertop. Great, now I can't stop imagining him with glasses, said Himiko, getting all fluttery. So damn adorable. You see, All Might may have a quirk that allows him to beat everything with one strong hit. Sadly, he does so by inhaling enough air to expand his muscles. This wouldn't be a problem if it weren't for the fact that he has suffered an injury 5 years ago that gave him permanent lung damage. Hence, he can't maintain his muscle form for that long, allowing him to only be All Might for a certain period of time, 3 hours to be precise, explained Izuku. Interesting, and how do we know you're not lying to us? Asked Tamura. I'm glad you asked. You see, I've actually met the man outside his muscle form, and I know about what looks like outside his muscle form. Furthermore, I have concrete evidence, Izuku said, holding up his documents. This chart shows how active he has been over the years. As you can see, all the way up till 5 years ago, his active was high, at about 8 to 10 hours a day. Now look at his activeness after the attack. Tamura's eyes widened. My God, it's going down. From 8 to 6, then to 5, and up until now, only 3. Izuku said with a smile. Mightless, you my friend, are a genius, said Tamura, patting him on the shoulder. So, does that mean? Izuku asked. Yup, welcome, new vanguard. Tamura completed his sentence. Yeah, go new guy, cheered Himiko, suddenly leaping onto Izuku, giving him a huge hug. Damn, now that I'm looking at her up close, she's kinda cute. Izuku blushed. Or is it just the beer setting in? Come on. We just found out All Might's weakness. We should celebrate. Cheered twice, as suddenly, a bunch of different people flooded into the bar. Dobby, Magna, Spinner, you were here? Asked twice. The whole time, buddy. Come on. Once we mobilize out forces, we will murder All Might, said Dabi. Actually, I have a much better idea, said Izuku. I can still blend in with my age, so I suggest I sneak into Yui as one of the students and leak information to you guys. When the time is right, we will take advantage of all gathered information and slaughter all of the pro heroes live in front of everyone during the graduation. Then, we with the pro heroes defeated, we can thus crush the hopes of anyone that hopes to become a hero again. The room went silent, then a loud cheer was heard. Now that's what I call a plan, cheered Magna. How many nomas can we make when that time come? It will be a bloodbath, cheered Spinner. Kid, you sure do know how to bring a group together, Tamura said with a warm smile under his hand mask. Yeah, give it one for Mightless, cheered Kurogyri, passing him another pint. Mightless, Mightless, Mightless. Everyone cheered in unison, as Himiko leapt onto Izuku and kissed him out of the blue. Izuku cheered back and partied into the night. If only I had known being a villain will be this fun. I would have joined long ago, thought Izuku. Izuku woke up at back home, trying to figure out what happened last night. He remembered meeting with the League of Villains, getting recruited into their Vanguard Action Squad and partying the night away. He was about to get up until he realized there was something heavy on him, and looked down to notice a significant bulge on his blanket. Curious, he unveiled it and nearly screamed. Under his covers, he found Himiko, half naked, hugging his bare chest, and felt her rub her cheek on his abdomen. Izuku, murmured a half-asleep Himiko. Toga? Izuku yelled out. Himiko looked upwards at Izuku's shocked face and gave Blue him a kiss. She placed his finger on his abdomen and traced it up to his lips. We don't want to wake up Mommy, do we? Asked Toga. Toga? What are you doing here? Asked Izuku. It was lonely where I lived, so I thought of following you back to your place, answered Himiko. But how? I slid your mother's neck and walked into your room. Toga cut Izuku off. You did what? Izuku yelled shocked. Just kidding, silly. I broke into your room through the window. You're gonna be our spy after all, so we need to make sure you have a normal life to mask your secret career. Explained Himiko. That is why you haven't killed her yet, right? It's not like she would just accept the fact that you're a villain. Izuku thought about it and found that Toga was right. Inko would never want to see him turn to the dark side, and might end up getting in the way. Izuku clutched his blanket. It was decided, if his mother knows too much, he will personally execute her. All right, Himiko, you had your fun, now get yourself dressed, 'cause you're leaving now, ordered Izuku with authority. Not so fast, Izuku. I'm here to tell you Tamura wants you to participate in it, let's say initiative mission to train you before you get to the UE entrance exams. Explained Toga. Well, you could have written me a letter, but okay, what do I have to do? Asked Izuku. Toga handed him a USB key. It'll take too long for me to tell you, but all the instructions are in this, so don't lose it, said Toga, heading for the window, still in her underwear, which made Izuku blush. Oh, and by the way, Toga turned back to Izuku. Congrats on losing your virginity, she said in a jokish tone, leaving Izuku with bulged eyes, wondering if she meant it or not. As Izuku came down the stairs, he saw his mother, Inko, making breakfast. Hey Mom, Izuku said. Good morning my baby, Inko said in her usual tone. Mom, stop calling me baby. It's embarrassing, said Izuku. Now, I don't want to be a wet towel or anything, but do you have anything planned today? Asked Inko. Well, yeah, said Izuku, who was taken by surprise. Did his mother have something planned today? Whatever it is, he cannot let it get in his way. This was his shot to prove his worth to the League, and the mere thought of postponing for his mother it made him nervous. For a brief moment, killing her came to mind. Izuku's eye had already went to full analysis mode, analyzing weak points, vital organs and possible approaches. She was just full of openings. Fighting his urge, Izuku asked. Yeah, actually why? Asked Izuku. Because you might have to postpone it, sweetie. I know it's sad, but don't worry, 'cause the good news is, you're gonna see an old friend, said Inko, trying to cheer him up. A friend? Asked Izuku. Inko gave him a warm smile. Remember Katsuki? His mother and him are coming over today. Inko said. What? Izuku slammed both hands on the table. This was outrageous. Even if he wasn't a villain, he would be pissed off at the news. Not even saying a word, he got up and ran to his room. Izuku, I get it if you're upset. I'm sorry. Izuku? Inko yelled to no response. Back in his room, Izuku slammed the door, and then proceeded to punch his wall, leaving a dent in the shape of a fist in it, but also really hurting his hand. This was unbelievable. Damn it, damn it, damn it. I cannot believe I could be this unlucky. Not even in my wildest dreams. Izuku yelled as he thrashed onto his bed. Eventually getting tired, he turned to his back, staring blankly at the ceiling. He then turned towards the USB for a few minutes. Might as well take a look, said Izuku, loading the key into his laptop. It was a PDF map of the mall he attacked L'Oreal in. Apparently, they were gonna test out a prototype of these things called Nomus, that were artificial humans with multiple quirks. And he was gonna be the observer, analyzing its weaknesses and flaws that needs rework, and also to observe new, debuting heroes and their quirks and weaknesses to exploit. The Nomu, according to the plans, cannot actually think and act by instinct. They also have a list of people, including him, implant into his brain, those people's orders, he will obediently follow, anyone else, he will kill. But then he noticed that attached to the PDF was a list of the rest of the vanguards and their quirks. And it was the quirk of the girl he just met, Himiko Toga, that made him leap with joy. Himiko Toga. Age, 14. Quirk, shapeshifter. He can now use her to pose as him during the dinner and complete his mission. Relieved that there was still a way, he knew he needed to hurry. Stuffing his outfit into his backpack, he ran downstairs and towards the door. Izuku? Where are you going? Asked Inko, noticing that he was leaving. Gotta going to the mall, to buy a gift for Kaken, answered Izuku, heading out. Aw, he must really like the kid, said Inko, seeing him run off. He needed to hurry, as there wasn't gonna be long until Kaken shows up, he needed to be ready. He quickly headed towards the subway, where he sent a text to Toga's supposed phone, telling her to meet up. Minutes went by, and Izuku felt a tap on the shoulder, turning around to meet Toga face to face. The subways are a pretty odd place to ask a girl out, don't you think? Asked Toga. It's not about a date. Look, I need you to pose as me so that I may attend my mission without hindrance, explained Izuku. Toga smiled. Of course, anything for my sweetie, Toga said while pulling Izuku closer. I'm really starting to doubt this is a good idea, thought Izuku. Look, Toga, there will be a guest today at my house, a childhood friend, so I don't want you to act in a way that attracts his attention, said Izuku. Sure thing. Acting is what I do best. Just tell me what's your relation with the guy, asked Toga. His name is Katsuki Bakugo, but call him Kaken, he's used to me calling him that. Also, he always addresses me as Deku, so be wary of that as well, explained Izuku. Toga's expression changed. Why would he give you such a nickname? Asked Toga in a cold tone. Izuku blushed in embarrassment. He was kinda a bully to me from my childhood to today. He kept on picking on me because I was quirkless, explained Izuku. Toga's face shifted in anger as she hugged Izuku in a sort of aggressive way. Tell me where he lives. I'll kill him. I'll make him my personal pincushion. No one will bully my Izuku, she said. Izuku hugged her back and took up a more dominant and commanding voice. Himiko, I know you are technically my senpai, and that I should respect you, which I do, but… Toga's eyes widened as Izuku swiftly took the knife she hid under her skirt and held it to the back of her neck. Kaken's mine to kill. So if you so much as leave a cut on his pinky finger, well, I think you got the message, said Izuku, licking the sweat off her neck. Tastes bitter, like fear I was. Wondering if you could feel that emotion. Izuku then backed up, hands still on her shoulders as his dead, hollow eyes turned green and lively. Well, good luck with your mission, and wish me luck as well, Izuku said, flashing a lively smile and running off. Toga dropped to her knees, rubbing her nape, where Izuku had licked her. I didn't know you have such a sadistic dark side, Izuku, Toga said, suddenly blushing madly and shaking like a schoolgirl, as hearts formed in her pupils. That just makes me more into you. It was around 12 p.m. when Toga, disguised as Izuku, came back home. Izuku, your back bought anything? Asked Inko, in her usual cheerful self. Nah, couldn't find anything Kaken liked, said Toga. Ah, that's too bad, but don't worry, I think Katsuki will understand. In fact, here they are, said Inko as the doorbell suddenly rang. Hey Inko, long time no see, said Mitsuki coming through the door. Ah, Mitsuki, welcome. And I notice little Katsuki's there too, no? Inko tried to look behind her, but saw nothing. Ah, right, hold on, said Mitsuki in a calm fashion, before turning back to her car. Katsuki Bakugo, get the fuck out of the fucking car, you lazy sack of shit, she yelled, attracting the whole neighborhood. I told you I ain't budging from my spot, you old hag. So unless you can rip the car seat off and drag me here, I'm staying put, yelled Katsuki back at his mom. Mitsuki turned to Inko calmly. Sorry, but can you excuse me for a minute? Asked Mitsuki, as she walked towards her car. Mom? What are you doing? Before Katsuki could finish, the car seat was ripped out of the car, and Mitsuki carried him towards the house, while Toga and Inko just watched in the distance. Wonder how things are going on Izuku's end, thought Toga. At the Narahara shopping district, where Izuku was instructed to go to, he followed the instruction he unloaded to his phone and went on the glass room at the center of the mall. There he found a package. Opening it, there was a radio, along with 2 submachine guns, ammo, ropes, a crowbar and a remote to detonate the bomb inside the Nomu, so that the heroes can't dissect it. Attached to the package was a note. Supplies for the road. We even packed your lunch, smiley face. Izuku sighed, recognizing the handwriting. Of course you would, Toga, he said. Turning on the radio, an alarm was signaled back at home base. He's arrived, said Tamura, Kurogyri. Now, suddenly, a black portal opened behind Izuku, as the previously mentioned Nomu came out of it. It was humanoid, but had one disproportionately huge right arm. Right off the bat, there were some obvious flaws that he could see. Some notably, the fact that his fucking brain was exposed. Geez, you have a face only a mother can love, commenting Izuku, but you're nothing but a test subject, so I'll let it slide. Now, get down there and cause as much havoc as possible. Make sure to not kill anyone, because they could be used as hostages for my escape should things go south. All I need you to do is attract as many pro heroes, especially the more experienced ones, to fight you. If you die, you die, otherwise I'll just report to Tamura that the test was successful. Ordered Izuku, got it? The Nomu nodded as his left arm shifted into a hammer and smashed the glass ceiling, descending into the center of the shopping district. Moments before the incident, a girl walked along the shops, admiring the multitude of clothes and jewelry. The girl had short hair and an eye patch. This was Quinn Hachisuka, part-time villain. She's the main antagonist of MHA Vigilantes. Her usual acts of villainy, spreading chaos. Using a certain quirk enhancement drug called Trigger, which drastically increases one's quirk, turning them into uncontrollable monsters. She was just about to pull this routine in the middle of a crowded shop, until a strange-looking creature came crashing down the room. What the hell is that? Asked Quinn as people fled in panic. She watched from a distance as the monster rampaged around the shop, smashing down walls and plants while emitting a piercing roar. Well, guess someone did the job for me, said Quinn, but who? She decided to activate her quirk, Queen Bee. The quirk unleashes a swarm of mind-controlled bees at their opponents and can be used for scouting. She needed to know who was behind the attack. As the bees searched the shops, the beast found himself face to face with some pro heroes. Yes, the heroes are here. We're saved, cheered the crowd. She then witnessed that the monster began to eat the debris. Just then, his arm turned into a cannon and fired the consumed debris at the heroes. His arm then turned into a hammer and swung at the now weakened heroes. That thing has multiple quirks? Who in the world can make such a thing? Asked Quinn. Suddenly, something caught her attention and she smiled, looking at the opening where the monster came from. Found you? With Izuku, the Nomu had gone out of his sight, and most of the mall had evacuated. Taking some rope out of the package, he descended into the wrecked mall to observe the Nomu from up close, beginning to take notes. Let's see, his quirks are Hammer Hand, Arm Cannon, strength enhancement and boosted stamina. Not bad, but he needs a quirk to compensate for his low mobility, something like a jet booster quirk? Notes Izuku, writing it down on his notebook. Well, aren't you just adorable? Said a voice that nearly made Izuku jump. Turning around, he saw a girl with short hair, an eye patch, wearing a tight jacket. Who are you? No ordinary citizen would just stick around while that monster over there is around, Izuku said, pointing to the Nomu, now swinging around the unconscious body of one of the heroes. I was interested, say, how does one made one of those things? Asked Quinn. I don't know, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you, answered Izuku. Quinn flashed a villainous smile. Well, guess you're not interested in this then, she said, holding up a syringe filled with a blackish substance. What is that? Izuku asked. A bee landed in Izuku's shoulder as Quinn's smile grew larger. Why don't you find out? She said as the bee sunk his stinger into Izuku's flesh, making him wince in pain. Oh, what was that for? Asked Izuku, unaffected. What? How? Quinn asked in shock. The drug should have triggered your quirk, making you a nigh unstoppable killing machine like that thing over there, she said, pointing to the Nomu, now getting dogpiled by 4 heroes at once. Oh, so that's what it does, said Izuku, smiling in content. Hey Nomu, shoot this girl would ya? The Nomu heard his master's orders, and despite the heroes holding him down, he aimed at Quinn and shoot a ball of rubble at her. Seeing the upcoming barrage, she swiftly dodged out of the way. But a gunshot was heard as the girl looked down, finding a bullet hole in her stomach. You quirkless son of a bitch, Quinn yelled out in anger. Suddenly, a syringe flew through the smoke and stabbed her in the right knee. She looked down in a hint of panic. You dropped it when the monster fired at you. I thought I'd give it back, said Izuku. You, Quinn uttered as her mind started to slip away. Gotta fight it, got to fight? Quinn began to transform, ripping her jacket apart as she slowly became a queen bee. Izuku noticed that as her jacket was ripping, several vials clanked to the floor containing the same fluid. Yeah, jackpot, said Izuku, running towards the fallen flasks, most of which were already shattered. Come back here, yelled Quinn as she charged at Izuku. Suddenly, the Nomu sensed that his master was under attack, and jumped back towards Izuku to save him. Another monster. And this one is attacking a child, cried some of the heroes that were still up. As the 2 monsters clashed, Izuku quickly ducked under the chaos and retrieved the vials. Suddenly, a rogue coke sent him flying into one of the broken-down H&N stores, flying through the glass and breaking one of the vials. Izuku felt blood running down his head as his vision was slightly blurry. Looking at him jacket, it was covered in black substance. Let's hope Tamura can recreate this drug, because there's not much left, Izuku said, stumbling up. Looking out the window, he saw that both the heroes and the news reporters were closing in. Then he suddenly remembered he was supposed to be back home. If they see him on TV by chance, the cover would be blown. He couldn't let that happen. So, without thinking twice and in a rush of adrenaline, he made a beeline for the exit as the hero were almost there. What a wonderful dinner you made, said Mitsuki, right Bakugo? Bakugo, still seatbelt to the car seat Mitsuki ripped out, simply let out a grunt. Not wanting to look bad in front of a childhood friend. She sucked it up and just carried on. Come on Kaken. It's not like this is a trip to the dentist, lighten up, said Toga, still disguised as Izuku. Katsuki turned to Toga and gave her the death stare. So he plays the tough guy, huh? No matter, even the toughest of toughs have a breaking point, thought Toga. Oh, I know how to cheer you up, exclaimed Toga, moving his seat to the living room. Izuku? Where are you going? Asked Inko. Kaken been stuck in his seat with his stuck-up expression for this entire time. I thought I would lighten him up a bit. Katsuki turned to Izuku. Hey, what the fuck are you? Shh, just relax Kaken. Toga cut him off. Just sit back and relax. Toga placed her hands on Katsuki's sides. Katsuki, seeing this, tried to fight back. Just then Toga started to tickle him. Aha. Stop. Please. Ha. Katsuki thrashed around helplessly, trying to undo his seatbelt. Toga started to laugh with him, her face turning more and more psychotic. "Aw, they're playing," said Inko, charmed. Izuku barely made it out of the shop, and limped towards the roof, exhausted and busted up. "Alright, now where's that remote?" said Izuku, fumbling around inside the package. "Ah, there it is. I reckon your mission was a success," said a familiar voice. "Even better, I hit a gold mine while on this mission. I think you'll be quite pleased," said Izuku, not even turning around. "Oh, you found something of value?" asked Tamura. Izuku turned around, handing him the vial. "Can you try and replicate this substance?" asked Izuku. Tamura examined the black liquid. "Seems doable. Why?" asked Tamura. Izuku pressed the remote, as a huge ball of flame lit up the mall, setting it ablaze. Screams can be heard as heroes scrambled about, trying to maintain order. "Because that will be the amount of damage one Nomu can do if we can utilize this drug." Toruma smiled. "You have my interest," said Tamura. "Good, now tell your Kurogiri dude to send me home. I have some things to sort out and some work to finalize," said Izuku. A dark portal opened at near Izuku's house's street as Izuku hopped out, in normal civilian clothing, with his blood-stained outfit stuffed into his backpack. "I patched myself as best as I could, but there's still some cuts that are somewhat visible on my arm. I'll have to lay low and only wear long-sleeved shirts for now to prevent suspicion until my arm heals," said Izuku to himself, heading towards his house. At his house, he recognized Katsuki's family car parked next to his house. Shit, they're still there? And why is the rear left seat missing? Though Izuku, knowing that Toga was still posing as him for stalling purposes, he looked into the window, expecting chaos inside. What he saw instead shocked him even more. "Come on, Kaken. Try to keep up," yelled Toga. "I can't. You're getting in my way," Katsuki yelled back. "Where's our healer?" Toga yelled. "Didn't you kill him 2 minutes ago when he walked into your line of fire?" yelled Katsuki. "No, that was you," replied Toga. Out of everything Izuku expected, Himiko Toga, disguised as him, playing video games with Kaken, still strapped to his car seat, was not one of them. Though, unsurprisingly, with Mitsuki there wasn't much Kaken could have done to harm Toga. Just then, Toga's eyes drifted towards the window where Izuku was spying from and winked. Izuku, knowing she sees her, sent her a text through the phone, telling her to switch with him in the bathroom. Toga, receiving the message, flashed a sadistic grin. "Oh great. What now?" said Izuku, recognizing that grin. Suddenly, Toga turned to Katsuki. "Okay, be right back, just gotta use the bathroom," said Toga. Katsuki grunted. "Oh, and one more thing," Toga said, approaching Katsuki, who had a confused look. Suddenly, out of the blue, without the two mothers noticing, Toga lunged in and plunged her tongue into Katsuki's mouth. Just really getting in there with her deep kiss. As the two mouths disconnect, with Izuku bearing witness to all of it, growing pale, Toga smiled at Katsuki. "There goes your innocence." Toga squealed as she ran towards the bathroom at top speed. Katsuki stayed silent for 5 seconds, before giving chase in an explosion of rage, running at least 20 miles per hour despite still being seatbelt to his car seat. Deku! Izuku, noticing that was his cue, ran towards the bathroom and jumped in from the window, where Toga was waiting for him. "Heya Izuku musical notes. How did the mission go?" asked Toga in a giddy tone. Izuku grabbed her by both shoulders and shook her around. "Toga, what the fuck was that? Why would you, disguised as me no less, do that to Kaken?" Izuku yelled at her. Since I'm leaving, I thought I'd leave you in an amusing situation before I left. So, good luck getting out of this one," laughed Toga, reverting back to her normal self and escaping through the window. "Izuku, once you come out you're dead," Katsuki yelled through the door. "Just consider yourself lucky I can't break down this door without that hag blowing all of my hair off." Izuku frantically hid his backpack in the cabinet as well as pulling down his sleeve to hide his cuts. At the banging on the door got louder, he knew he couldn't do anything about it. "Fine Toga, I'll play your game, you sadist bitch," thought Izuku, pissed off at Toga. Just then, as he was about to confront Katsuki, Mitsuki's call came like the cavalry and saved him from what was to come. "Katsuki, get down here. We leaving," said Mitsuki. "1 second. I have a neck to break," Katsuki yelled back. "Don't make me come up there, young man," Mitsubishi yelled back. "Oh fuck no. I ain't coming down until I am done with you over here. So unless you can rip off the bathroom door, I suggest you," Katsuki yelled, before getting cut off by extremely loud stomping. No, not a guy. Izuku stared blankly as the bathroom door was ripped off its hinges as Katsuki, still holding onto the doorknob, was dragged away along with his door. "This isn't over, you hear me? This isn't over." Katsuki's voice died down the further he got. "Sorry for the inconvenience my son gave you, and here's for the door," said Mitsuki, giving Inko a roll of 1,000 yen. As the two drove off, Izuku let out a sigh of relief. He looked around to check and see if Toga was around. After making sure, he went to the shower room. Toilets and showers are in different rooms in a common Japanese house. And washed off the blood, his and his victims. It was around 11:43 p.m., around the time I'm currently writing this chapter, and he was completely drained. He didn't even bother to patch up the wounds he got when Quinn kicked him through the front glass of an H&N store. He just walked up to him bed, flopped into it and blacked out. It was around 8:30 a.m. when he woke up, and he found a note on the side of his bed. He knew right away that it was from the league, judging by its black envelope and the fact that they usually only send letters to their subordinates, in fear of getting tracked down by the authorities through the use of his phone. Apparently, there was an urgent meeting at the league and all members had to attend. Quickly running off, without even warning his mother, he made his way to the league. Entering the front door, he realized that the room was filled with different villains. With such a large amount of people, one might think that this was some sort of ceremony. Suddenly, a man dressed in black entered the room. His face was covered, but he emitted an aura of danger. Izuku felt his knees trembling at the sight of the man. Just then he spoke up. "Greeting, League of Villains, I am All for One, the founder and leader of this organization. I have gathered all of you today because of a magnificent discovery made yesterday, one that takes us one step closer to overthrowing all of the heroes," said All for One. The villains cheered to the news, and Izuku felt a huge sense of pride, seeing the joy he brought to the faces of these men. All for One reached into his pocket, revealing the same black liquid Izuku stole from Quinn, who was currently under custody, from the news he read. "This thing is called Trigger. It is a drug that enhances one's quirk to unfathomable levels. Though the user loses his mind while under this drug's influence, giving it to an already mindless beast, such as our Nomus, will greatly increase our battle advantages. Not only that, but we are already working on a version of Trigger that won't affect a person's mind when used," explained All for One, before turning to the crowd. Izuku felt a sense of importance and happiness when the boss pointed at his in the crowd. "And we have this kid to thank. In only 2 days of joining this organization, and we already have both a quirk enhancer drug and the weakness of All Might. As such, I believe he is deserving of a reward," said All for One with pride. "Give a big hurrah to Mightless, the hero hunter." All the villains cheered his name as he walked up to the tall man, before saluting the massive crowd, signaling them to quiet down. Izuku, feeling a joy he hasn't felt for so long, spoke up. "Only 4 weeks ago, my biggest dream was to become a hero, but that vision of mine was foolish. I now see heroes for what they truly are, bullies, preying on the weak of society, exploiting their followers to an abusive level and still expect them to remain their loyal followers. It disgusts me to the point of puking." The villain crowd cheered in content. "Yeah, we're not puppets. We deserve better," cheered the crowd. "And thus," Izuku continued, "we shall show no mercy to these hypocrites, whose greed for fame and fortune makes them simply overlook the weak, quirkless kid getting bullied in the park. We will bring down this corrupt establishment they call the Hero Association and show the world the heroes for what they really are. Now will you step up and join my revolution?" "Yeah." The villains cheered in unison. "Turn around, boy," said All for One. "I have yet to ask you, is it true that you are quirkless?" Izuku turned around and nodded. All for One then put his hand on Izuku's head. Suddenly, he felt the fingers of the boss sinking into his head as he felt a surge of energy. The sudden shock dropped him to his knees, panting. What was that?" asked Izuku. "I just gave you a quirk. This will be your means of passing the UE entrance exams that's upcoming in 2 months. That should give you plenty of time to master it," explained All for One. Izuku's eyes lit up with hope as he asked, "What quirk did you give me?" "You'll find out soon enough," grinned All for One. As he stepped down, the villains ran up to congratulate him. For once in his life, Izuku felt admired, like an actual idol. Back home, Izuku started to fiddle around with nearby objects, trying to figure out what kind of quirk All for One had given him. A nightmare-inducing quirk maybe? Or maybe a wind manipulation quirk? He was pretty annoyed by the fact that All for One wouldn't tell him what quirk he was given. It really didn't matter though, he knew he must have had one, as he didn't feel any dishonesty coming from the man. All he knew was that he was tired after all partying, and needed to sleep. "I'll find out tomorrow, school's gonna start then anyways," Izuku said to himself as he flopped onto his bed like a rag doll. Meanwhile, with Katsuki, he was back home lifting weights in the basement, where lied broken down sandbags with Izuku's face taped onto them. "Damn you, Deku," Katsuki muttered as he threw the 50-kilo weights against the wall, making a loud clanking noise that rewarded him with a screaming warning from his mother upstairs. He just couldn't process what had just happened yesterday. Why would Deku, out of anyone, kiss him out of all things? Was it his way to take revenge, so if he got a girlfriend, she kiss wouldn't be his first? He knew Izuku, he was weak, cowardly, frail. And yet, that time they meet at his house, his cowardly personality seemed a little forced. Was it because he knew that he was safe since Mom was with me? Katsuki then turned red with rage. "Arg. Why am I wasting so much time thinking about D? It's stupid. He's stupid. I cannot believe he invaded my thoughts just like that," yelled Katsuki. Then it hit him. "Wait a minute," thought Katsuki, gasps, "is he gonna find out? This must be his way to get revenge on me. That sly motherfucker," yelled Katsuki. "Oh, thank God." Katsuki then turned to one of his sandbags, which had a picture of Izuku's face taped on it. "Just you wait, Deku. I'll crush you for this tomorrow," said Katsuki. It was the last few months of school before the entrance exams at UE. Izuku knew that he needed this time to master his quirk, whatever it is, so that he might even stand a chance against whatever the exams bring to the table. As the first period rolled around, Izuku took his usual seat at the back of the class. As the usual students flooded in, he noticed something off. At this time, Katsuki would usually barge into class, yelling, "What up, bitches? Your king has returned," or something like that, but glancing at him, he calmly walked to his seat near the front of the class and quietly sat down. Even some of the nearby students were confused by this sudden change. As the days moved on, Izuku started noticing that Katsuki was mostly just glaring at him. No threats, no physical harm, no nothing. Frankly, it started to freak him out. Is he mad at me? Is it Toga kissing him? I bet it was Toga kissing him, thought Izuku. Towards the end of the day, Izuku had just experienced something he never thought he'd see in the past. He went through an entire day of school without getting physically assaulted by Katsuki and his gang. As happy as he was, it was also pretty concerning. Walking home, however, he noticed that Katsuki was following him. Now that was real creepy. Having had enough, he turned around in a dramatic fashion and yelled out while pointing his finger at the wall he noticed Katsuki was hiding behind. "Keikikaken. I know you're teether. Show yourself," Izuku called out. Katsuki, as expected, came out of cover and walked up to him in an intimidating way, the more familiar way. "Alright, what's your game, Keikaken? Why are you doing this?" Izuku asked. Katsuki just ignored his question. Grabbing him by the collar, Katsuki lifted him up in the air. "What's wrong with me? I was about to ask you the same question," yelled Katsuki. What? Explain yourself. You stayed cowardly for all your life, and even tucked your tail and cried like a little bitch. Only a week ago. So where is this sudden boost of confidence coming from?" asked Katsuki. Izuku started sweating and breathing heavily. I thought you had changed somehow, so I took this day to observe you. Yet you haven't changed a bit. So I came to the conclusion that you were taking advantage of the presence of my mom to get into head. Am I right? Asked Katsuki. Izuku, with no real answer, just nodded nervously. Katsuki, getting the message, just took on a sadistic smile. Well, guess that just proves to you that I have the brains to back up my brawn, said Katsuki. I never told you you were a meathead, Izuku explained. Katsuki didn't take that well. Are you contradicting me? Asked Katsuki, raising his right hand to punch him. Izuku, bracing for impact, held his breath. Time was passing, however, but Izuku never felt the impact. 10 seconds, still nothing. Izuku wondered what was going on. Did Katsuki spare him? It can't be. He was still holding him in the air. Open his eyes, he suddenly noticed. It was as if time itself was in slow motion. Unable to hold him breath any longer, he exhaled, and Katsuki's fist met his face. As Izuku tumbled to the ground, the realization of his quirk made him laugh. Whatcha laughing at, Deku? Katsuki yelled, kicking him in the stomach. Izuku clutched his belly in pain as Katsuki repeatedly beat down on him. But Izuku didn't mind the pain, and simply laughed it off as Katsuki was pounding him. Getting frustrated, Katsuki grabbed him by the neck. What's so funny? Katsuki yelled. Oh my, I can't believe you. Izuku uttered in laughter, trying to think of a different reason to hide his quirk. To just imagine you in you as a hero. How you would deal with hostage situations. Katsuki grinned. Oh well, it's not like you'll ever even make it past the test. Katsuki laughed. Izuku looked at him with rebellious eyes. Wanna bet? Asked Izuku. Katsuki simply shrugged it off and knocked him out cold. Izuku woke up back home. Looking around, he saw that this was in fact his room. He felt something warm resting on his chest and looked up. He was shocked to see Toga, asleep on his bed, resting her head on his naked chest. Izuku! Izuku heard his mother whispering. Mom? What happened? Asked Izuku. I'm so proud of you, sweetie. Inta said with a thumbs up. Asked Izuku in confusion. You never told me you had a girlfriend, said Inko, sparkling with pride. What? Izuku shot upward. Izuku, you're awake, said Toga with a worried face, hugging him. I was so worried. She said you got run over by a car trying to save her, said Inko. I'm so proud of you, sweetie. You really are becoming a hero, said Inko before leaving the room. After Inko left, only Toga and Izuku remained. The two locked eyes with each other, as Toga's gleeful grin returned. Did you like my acting, Izuku-kun? Asked Toga. Alright, Toga, what are you doing here? Asked Izuku. You got your ass handed to you by Katsuki. I couldn't just let you die, said Toga. Well, that's wonderful. Now get out. I have some training to do, said Izuku. Actually, HQ has sent you another mission, said Toga, handing him a letter. Izuku opened and read the letter's contents. Retrieve the blood of pro heroes, said Izuku. Yeah, in order to create different quirks for our nomus, we need blood containing the DNA of other quirk users in order to replicate them, explained Toga. And they want me to do it? Asked Izuku. They want us to do it? Explained Toga. Izuku smiled. I still have a few months before the entrance exam to UE, where I will be surrounded by pro heroes to analyze, betray, kidnap, and even kill. Taking pro heroes' head would be the test training method, Izuku said to himself before turning to Toga. Toga, contact the League, tell them I want to receive missions daily, said Izuku. Toga shot up with surprise. Are you sure? Wouldn't that be dangerous? Asked Toga. Girl, I adopted danger the day I became a villain. Now, it's time to challenge my limit, said Izuku, but I'll need a mentor on the way, an experienced killer. Someone that I can trust. Oh my god. Toga blushed, realizing where he was going with this. Toga, here it comes. Will you be my partner in crime for the following months? Asked Izuku. Toga's face went full red. She was shaking with excitement, hands covering her blood-red face. Of course, Toga leapt into Izuku's arms, and kissed him. Izuku didn't protest, he just sunk with her. "We will make an magnificent team," said Toga. People ran rampant across the street, fleeing in panic, like ants abandoning their anthill during a flood. At the source of all this, cars were sent flying, laying waste to nearby civilians. While illegal usage of quirks were a common event, something of this scale was rarely seen, and as the police forces sent in to suppress the assailant, calls of reinforcements were made, as the numbers dropped like flies. And warning was issued around the city block. It was a villain attack. A certain crystallization quirk user had just smashed open a limousine, and the man inside was running out, attempting to head to safety. Suddenly, the crystalline golem of a man grabbed the guy by the neck and stared him down the face. "Remember me, Yossi?" he asked with a gravelly voice. The face attempted to decipher who he was. No clue. No? But if it's money you want, I can give you some," he replied with a fearful tone. The man seemed pissed off towards his attitude, which tightened the grip, squeezing blood out of his mouth. "Oh, so you don't remember me, huh? Does Employee of the Month ring a bell?" The man yelled at him. "Keikoyama? Oh my god. Listen, if it's about your daughter, my daughter's dead. And quit the act, I know you're not sorry," yelled Koyama. "All you had to do was pay my daughter's medical bill when your seer crashed into mine. But no. You insisted that it was my quirk activating when I tried to protect her that broke her spine." The golem continued to tighten his grip. "You then fired me. You're filing a lawsuit against you and losing. I lost my job, my daughter, wife, even the house. All those years of work, and for what?" "Stop right there, villain," cried a familiar voice. It was Kamui Wood, the pro-hero with a wood quirk. Reaching out with his wooden vines, he stunned the villain, forcing him to let go of the hostage. With the villain stunned and unable to move, Kamui turned around, to bask in the glory of success, as civilians rushed in to take pictures of his success. Just then, we hear the villain mumble something in the back. "Alright, just like the kid said?" he whispered to himself, reverting back to a humanoid form to escape the entanglement. Kamui noticed him escaping and charged towards him to knock him out. Suddenly, Koyama punched the limousine's gas tank, spraying gasoline all over Kamui Wood right before he could reach him. "It got into my mask," Kamui yelled as he tried to wipe off the gasoline. Koyama took this opportunity to pull out a lighter, which Kamui saw out of the corner of his eye. Kamui pupils dilated as the lit lighter was thrown at him, setting him ablaze. The hero squirmed in pain as the villain reformed into the crystal golem form he was in and pounded Kamui to the ground with a barrage of fists. "And pause," said Nizu, pausing the recording right as Koyama's fist met Kamui's face, before turning towards the large group of pro-heroes sitting at the round table, whom he was showing the recording to. The heroes at the meeting cringed at the sight of Kamui's face caving in. Nexus got off the booster seat that allowed him to reach the screen in the first place and turned to the group. "This is just one of the many cases of a hero losing because of their quirk's weakness getting exploited," explained Nizu. "There are many other examples. Jet, Stan Star, Fourth Kind, L'Oreal, and even Sirius were recently hospitalized due to the same reasons. Out of these heroes, 3 of them quit afterwards, traumatized. They just got cocky," said Endeavor. "So why are you telling us this?" Midnight gave Endeavor a mean glare. "L'Oreal was a former 3rd year from UE. I trained him personally and called him my #1 pupil with pride," explained Midnight. "Those were not the only heroes that were beaten by villains," explained 13. "A recent graduate from Ketsubutsu Academy was killed in action in front of my own eyes." Several heroes turned to him. "So you knew?" they yelled in unison. 13 nodded. "I've hardly seen many pro-heroes lose to common thugs, but the thugs that time were clever. They used mirrors to use my partner's light beam quirk against him. I thought of it as a tragedy. I was unaware such things were happening of such a large scale," explained 13. "What seems to be the cause of it?" asked Best Jeanist. "That's what I came here to discuss about," explained Nizu. "Whoever is behind this, he must have some sort of connection to us heroes, meaning we might be dealing with a new, powerful enemy here." "Are there any connections with the villains who beat the heroes?" asked Aizawa. "None that we know of," hence confirming that we aren't dealing with an organized group. Rather, an information provider, explained Nizu. Like a carrier pigeon, said Edgeshot. Exactly, said Nizu. Suddenly, at the other end of the table, All Might spoke up. Is there any chance they might know personal weaknesses of heroes, like personality-wise? Asked All Might. There hasn't been any confirmed case of that happening, explained Nizu. So, what are we gonna do about this? Carrier pigeon? Asked Endeavor. Simple, unmask him, explained Nizu. Endeavor slammed his fist on the table with an eager grin. Consider it done, said Endeavor. I will avenge my former student, said Midnight. And I will avenge my partner's death, said 13. Suddenly, a loud explosion was heard downstairs of the building. What was that? A villain attack? Yelled Endeavor. Suddenly, a staff ran into the room with a hint of panic. Mr. Nizu, there's a group of villains downstairs who's attacking the building, cried the staff. What? Yelled everyone in the room. Downstairs, several staff managers were found beaten and unconscious as groups of men flooded the building and started to open drawers, searching for hero documents. At the center of it all lies a man in a pimp outfit. A pure white tuxedo contrasting his black skin and afro as his disco-like outfit was lined in gold. All right, boys. Just a few more of those documents and we will be rich, cheered the man. Suddenly, several men were sent flying as the pro-heroes entered the scene. It's the pro-heroes, yelled some of the grunts. Don't worry, we prepared for this, said the villain group leader. Midnight sent several men flying with the crack of her whip. A few of them pointed guns at him, but fell victim to her quirk, somnambulism. Just then she felt her gas getting sucked away. She turned around to see that had activated the AC, and that her gas was escaping through the vent. Before she could compose herself, one of the gunner got up and shot her in the abdomen. That Mightless kid wasn't kidding. She really is vulnerable without her gas, said the grunt. 13, seeing that Midnight was in trouble, activated her black hole, sucking several grunts towards her. But some of the nearby bystanders were getting sucked in as well, so she was forced to deactivate her quirk. Just then, one of the grunts used the momentum gained from getting sucked towards her by the black hole to tackle him down and lodge a knife into his shoulder. Suddenly, almost all of the grunts were taken out in one strong air blast. Amongst the rubble, a lone, muscle-bound man walked amongst the debris. Never fear. Crap, why is he here? Asked the leader. We were having a meeting when you attacked. Bad luck, buddy, said Present Mike, standing over what's left of his men. For I am here, said All Might. The villain leader, seeing that he was outnumbered, ran for the exit but was stopped by Aizawa, who tied him up with his weapon. Damn, if only I had timed this attack better. We would have had enough documents. We would have been able to get your weakness, said the leader. So I guess you're the one providing information to other villains? Asked All Might. No common thug would be able to injure two of the top pro heroes after all. The leader laughed. No, buddy, you got it all wrong. I was in fact his client. You see, we were planning to do a trade. I would trade the personal info of 5 top-ranked pro heroes for your weakness, All Might, explained the leader. All Might's pupils dilated. What? Yeah, I too was shocked that you even had any weaknesses, but that's what he told me. And in exchange of completing the mission, he was gonna give it to us. We even paid a huge amount of money to get info of several pro heroes to prepare ourselves. We planned for everything. If only you didn't have this meeting, explained the leader in frustration. All Might clutched his fist and picked up the man by the neck. Who is this provider? All Might yelled at him. Calm down, All Might, said Endeavor from behind. All Might realized his mistake and dropped the villain. Sorry, I lost composure there, said All Might, walking away. Just give me a second. As the news reporters arrived for live interviews, All Might was long gone. He reverted back to his normal form and slipped away unnoticed. He couldn't believe someone knew his secret. But who? As the situation settled, All Might left and went home. However, unbeknownst to him, he was being watched. All Might, I can't wait to see your face once you find your answer, said the scout. Izuku, eyes on the prize, said a familiar voice as Endeavor walked up to him. You got the documents? Asked Izuku. Yup, said Endeavor, whose body melted down, revealing that of Toga's. Great. One step closer to defeating these heroes. And so, our duo manages to once again slip under the Harrow's radar, as the name of Mightless remains a mystery to the world. The wet, splattering sounds of one's footprint echoes through the dark, heavy rainstorm as a man, covered in cut wounds, stumble as he tried to run away from something. Leaving the lit areas in a rush of panic, a plastic card dropped out of his pants, revealing his name. Name, Kuriko Watashi. Nickname, Parrot Purple. And below all of this personal information lay a certain special text written in all caps and in the bold font. Official Hero License. Kuriko, panting and out of breath, reached an overpass. He was safe, so he leaned against the wall, pressing his flesh wound against the cold, hard cement. He covered up his face, and after holding it back to the point of biting off a chunk of his own tongue, let out a muffled scream. He tried to remember what happened. Just minutes ago, him and his 3 other pro-hero partners, Peacock Pink, Crow Blue and Phoenix Red, known as the Justice Birds, famous for stopping villains in an almost perfectly synchronized fashion, were sent in to deal with a bank robbery. Everything was going fine, until all light in the area suddenly cut out, and then, out of the corner of his eyes, as if it was just a dream, a Grim Reaper, clad in black and gray, with a frown that mirrors the smile of All Might himself, sent 3 men to their grave. His knife, dripping with blood, as the noise of everyone panicking blotted out his screams of terror, as soon, under all of the chaos, the Grim Reaper started moving again, looking at him with a glare radiating with hate, and rushing in with his combat knife. Everything up to that point was a blur, and he was unsure what happened next. Suddenly, he heard noise to his left. His body shook in fear. He turned around, meeting face to face with the man who claimed the lives of his comrades. He shook in fear and anger. His body told him to run, but all he could think of was avenging his fallen friends. Pointing at him, Kuriko yelled with ferocity. Who are you? The supposed Grim Reaper simply laughed, and as his breathing stopped, he suddenly started approaching Kuriko at an impressively high speed, the same speed he took out all of his other pro-heroes with. Shaken with fear, Kuriko ran back, before realizing that he was trapped in a dead end. Turning around, he raised both of his arms and braced for impact. The police arrived soon after, discovering the mangled body of the last of the Justice Birds. That's the 6th hero dead with weak, mumbled one of the police officers. Who do you think did this? Asked another one of the officers, examining the body. The corpse had several lacerations and slash wounds, most of them were on the tendon, joints and waist, the perfect way to slow someone down, but it was a deep-cut wound at the man's throat that finished him off. Report back to the commissioner. It seems as though the Grim Reaper has struck again, said the police chief. The name Grim Reaper was given to the mysterious serial killer that they have yet to catch or even identify. He just knows that the killer likes to toy with his victims, killing them slowly. Some eyewitnesses claim that they saw the Grim Reaper, and that he also has a partner of sorts that joins in on almost all of his missions. After sending no less than 25 pro-heroes, new and veteran, to their grave, the Grim Reaper, although never seen, has been officially added to the Villains Index. Back at the headquarters, Izuku listened to the news, where the main headline was, "The Grim Reaper Struck Again." Kurogyari looked at him, smiling with pride as the news announced his handiwork, though they could have done a better job at naming him. "You've made quite a name for yourself, Izuku," said Kurogyari. "Sure." Izuku shushed him. "Oh right." Kurogyari almost immediately got his message. Suddenly, Toga leapt through the door and hugged Izuku from behind. "Izuku, I'm so happy to see you." Toga cried in joy as she burrowed into Izuku's back. "So, how did I do on my first solo mission?" asked Izuku. Toga looked at him as he turned around to face her. "You did amazing," said Toga, hugging him and resting her face against his chest. Just then, she leapt forward and put Izuku in a headlock, putting him in a submission hold. "You let your guard down again, Izuku," Toga said playfully. "And you got overconfident again, replied Izuku in an equally playful manner, as he opened his left hand, revealing Toga's panties. Toga's face went red like a tomato as she let go of Izuku to check herself, but found that her panties were still on. Just then, Izuku leapt onto her and held her to the ground. "That's another point for me, sweetheart," Izuku said in a dominant tone. "Okay, you got me. Now, what are you gonna do with this vulnerable body?" Toga said seductively. Izuku grinned. Suddenly, Toga's face blushed as she knew what was coming. "Wait, Izuku, not here. Please. Not in front of everyone," she yelled out, clearly embarrassed, but it was too late. Izuku leaned down as Toga struggled to get her arms free, pleading for him to stop. Unable to use his hands as they were too busy holding down Toga, Izuku stuck in tongue out. "Wait, your tongue? That's even worse," Toga cried. Looking around, she was hoping that her fellow villains would help her, but they were holding out cameras, recording this. "Please?" Toga whimpered as Izuku's tongue met its target. "Kayaha, stop. It tickles." "Stop," Toga cried as Izuku tickled her mercilessly. Seeing how twitchy she was, he quickly let go to use his hands to assist him to his merciless assault. Kurogiri just laughed as this playful fight happened, right under the bar's counter. As the fight finally settled, both Izuku and Toga were panting and sweaty, but still couldn't help but let out a few more giggles. "Geez, you really don't show any mercy, don't you? You should rename yourself Merciless," said Toga, readjusting her clothes. "Well, the only nickname I'll be called now will be Deku," Izuku said with a hint of disappointment. "Oh right. Your infiltration of Yui will be happening tomorrow," said Toga. "Yeah, and I'm glad I could have you carry me through these months, strengthening my body and quirk. You were a huge help to me," said Izuku. "Yeah, and you were an amazing partner." Toga smiled back, blushing at his compliment. "Hey Toga?" asked Izuku. "Yes, Izukuan?" asked Toga. Suddenly, Izuku lunged in, wrapping his arms around Toga's slender figure, and before she could utter a word, plunged his tongue where hers resided. The kiss was only a few seconds long, but both sides wished it could last forever. When the two finally separated, Izuku looked into her blushing face. "Just a little thank you before the big day," said Izuku, before leaving the door. Toga stood there, giddy like a schoolgirl, rubbing her lips as she savored her kiss with Izuku. "These two are just so adorable," Kurogiri commented. The flag of Yui swayed in the wind on top of the H-shaped monolith that was Yui Academy. Dozens of students and examinees walked about Bello, preparing themselves for the big event. A cad pulled into the bustling driveway as a young teenager with lively green hair and eyes came out. "A new day, a new life, prepare yourself, Yui," said Izuku. The mere sight of the massive building was giving him shivers, although, for completely different reasons this time around. He could already picture this massive building going down in flames. Oh, the mere joy. In fact, the mere thought was so joyful he nearly tripped. Just then he felt his body get lighter, as he floated upwards and landed on his feet. "Ah, are you okay?" asked a short brunette, running up to Izuku. "It's my quirk's ability, thank me later. It's a bad omen to trip and fall, you know." Izuku wanted to say thanks, but she just kept on talking. "Anyway, it really is nerve-wracking, isn't it? One slip up and boom, you fail. Anyways, I got a dip, good luck," she said, running off. "What's with her?" thought Izuku, praying to God Toga wasn't watching. "Out of my way, shrimp," yelled a familiar voice. It was Katsuki, as lively and pissed off as usual. Even though he was sick of it, he had to act as the old Izuku, as Katsuki knew him since childhood, and if there was one person that can tell when something was off, it was him. "Oh, Vichai Kaken. Gee, good luck with the entrance exams," Izuku said, acting nervous as usual. "Hi fucker, wanna get the shit kicked out of you in front of everyone?" was what Izuku wanted to say though. Katsuki smiled in a pitiful way. "Well, if it isn't Deku, you came to be a pro hero?" asked Katsuki in a mocking tone. "Well yeah, of course. It's my lifelong dream. No, I'm here kill everyone pro hero from the inside." "Ah, what a joke. Listen you little shit, I'm gonna be the one standing on top of the world here, and you don't even fit as a stepping stone," So how about I give you the directions to the nearest pharmacy, so you can buy the Viagra to go fuck yourself? Said Katsuki, smacking him to the ground and walking away. Izuku got up, sitting cross-legged. You really talk loud for a wannabe, mumbled Izuku, retaking his villain's persona. Excuse, what was that? Asked Katsuki, turning around aggressively. No response. That's what I thought. Getting back up, Izuku walked slowly to the front door. This is his big day, and the start to a big plan, so he knew he had to not fuck it up. Welcome to today's live performance. Everybody say hey, yelled a man in sunglasses with a long, blonde mohawkish hairstyle, awaiting for a response. The room remained silent, but the man continued to yell as though they had responded. Well, that's cool, my listeners. I'm here to present the guidelines for your practical. Are you ready? He continued. Yeah. He yelled out loud, but the room still remained silent. Izuku stayed at the other end of the room, noting him down. Voice hero, present mic, uses a sound quirk, has his own radio channel. He then paused to take a closer look. Very annoying. He added as side note. Shut up, Katsuki yelled, but his voice was easily blotted out by the teacher's excessive yelling. Now, this is how the test will go. You will conduct a 10-minute-long city landscape maneuver. Within this city, there will be fake villains, each worth different amounts of points. Use your quirk abilities to disable them in any means necessary. The teacher explained in an exceptionally loud voice. That last phrase disgusted Izuku. So what? So we need quirks to succeed as heroes. What a cop-out. He mumbled. Of course, playing the anti-hero is prohibited, so no attacking other examinees, or you will be eliminated, explained present Mike. Katsuki grunted in disappointment as he turned to Izuku. Guess you can live for another day. May I ask a question? A voice suddenly broke the in-between silence that present Mike takes to catch his breath. Suddenly a tall, formal-looking student rose up. It was said that there were no less than 4 varieties of fake villains on the handout. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves as the top hero academy in Japan for making such a blatant error, said the student. And you? He suddenly turned to Izuku, still taking notes, not even reacting to the student's ferocity. You've been doing nothing but take notes during this whole presentation. If you don't want to listen, leave. No response. Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you, yelled the student. I can't concentrate with you screaming, said Izuku in a cold tone, so kindly shut up. Izuku let out a murderous glare, sending a small shiver down the student's spine. I am Tenya Lida, a top-grade senior, and I will not tolerate such rudeness coming from, said the student. So now we're talking about social hierarchy? Izuku cut off. I have no obligation to respect a senior from a school I don't go to, just as I have rights to stay silent when someone peeks his nose into other people's business. So, if you please, I believe your host has a guideline to finish explaining. Tenya stopped talking after that. Sorry, he said, apologizing and sat back down. Katsuki stared at Izuku in bewilderment. What the heck was that about? Katsuki wondered. Izuku left a smug grin as he continued to take notes. Alright, now, one last thing. The teacher continued. There will be one last obstacle, the 0-pointer. He will act more like the thwomps from Mario. There's one in each site, and your job will be to avoid it, got it? Yeah. Some of the examinees replied. Then break a leg everyone, plus ultra. The teacher cheered. The compound was immense. It really was like a city. Izuku stared upon the vast buildings, wondering how the hell could Japan's economy still remain stable if they invest so much money in this kind of stuff. As he prepared himself, he looked around, identifying immediately Ida, who was still pissed off at him, flashing him a mean glare, and the brunette girl who saved his face from meeting with the pavement. Looking around, he didn't find Katsuki, however. I assume he's in a different site, thought Izuku, looking around as he analyzed everyone in his block. I would appear as though most of the examinees have specially designed outfits to amplify their quirk's abilities. He himself had at least 4 different weapons concealed onto him, but seeing some of the outfits the others were wearing, he had a distinct feeling of standing out. Hey, why are you here? Hoping to interfere, said a familiar voice. Izuku turned around and saw Ida aggressively grabbing onto his shoulder. Not even a good luck? You must be one hell of a senior back at your school, said Izuku. People started mumbling around the two. Hey, isn't that the kid that silenced Ida? Mumbled one of the examinees. I've been to the same school as him, no one can silence him, mumbled another. That scrawny green-haired kid must be a big-shot delinquent, mumbled a third. Izuku, hearing all these voices behind his back, turned around with confidence. Come on guys. No one's an enemy here. If you have something important to say, why not let us hear it? Izuku said out loud. Ida pulled him back by the shoulder. What do you think you're doing? Asked Ida. Impersonating you, 'cause that's how you talk, replied Izuku with a smug look. Ida wanted to rebut, but just then, present mic was heard again. Begin. Some of the confused students stood there confused. What's wrong? The test has started. Run, run, run. Suddenly, everyone made a mad dash towards the test block, with Izuku leading the charge. Slowpokes, said Izuku to himself, despite the fact that he's clearly just using his time slow to gain a speed advantage. Suddenly, a wall beside him exploded as a metallic walker emerged from the smoke. His singular lens targeted Izuku as he aimed two cannon at his legs. Suddenly, the kid disappeared from his feed as his vision was suddenly cut. Izuku, standing above the broken-down robot, pulled out the combat knife he jammed into the robot's head. So these are one-pointers? Asked Izuku. I've already mapped down their weak spots where the least armored, but still, these guys are way too weak, wonder how the others are doing? Izuku peeked out from the side of a building. In front of his eyes, unfolded a full-out war zone, metallic bits flying left and right from the effect of tens of hundreds of quirks. He counted the bodies. There were already over 30 of the robots that were destroyed. From the feed, the pro heroes observed the multiple examinees doing their work. So many enemies, so limited time, it brings out the best in them, allowing us to know their true nature, said the pro hero, observing this carnage unfold before his eyes. You have the intelligence gatherers, those who can assess the situation in an instant, the mobility experts, those who always come first, the decision makers, those who can cope with any given situation, he analyzed, before turning to Katsuki, and then there's the natural-born warriors. The eyes of the pro-hero then shifted to Izuku, who seemed to be breaking one of the machines apart. What's that kid doing? Asked one of the spectators. The hero grinned, pushing a big red button. We're about to find out, said the hero. Izuku fiddled with one of the broken-down three-pointers. He started linking all of the broken-down wires to one of the robot's claw. Remember your training, Izuku, these robots are all electrical, they should be no different from than the lights in a mall, and I've cut the power to many of those buildings in the last few months, Izuku said to himself. Suddenly, a loud rumbling was heard. As Izuku turned around, he saw a massive Goliath of a robot heading towards him. All the students scrambled like ants at the sight of the gargantuan beast. That must be the zero-pointer, Izuku thought. No matter, we are tasked with running away, and that's what I'll do, let's just hope 15 points is enough. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eyes, he saw something. A brunette girl, the same one he was saved by, lying on the ground. She must have tripped, the irony. Suddenly, Izuku froze. He felt the helplessness of the girl as the massive robot approached. His eyes lit up, reverting to a familiar shade of light green, as his mind yelled at him something it hasn't in a while. Save her! Izuku, grabbing the robot's wire-covered arms, held his breath and ran as fast as he could, running in front of the girl as the giant's palm descended upon them. He raised his robotic arm and jammed it into the joints of the giant's middle finger. A massive surge of electricity erupted from the robot's arm and into the gimmick, frying it from the inside, as the robot was about to collapse onto them. The other students, seeing this unfold before their eyes, gazed in awe as that colossus had been taken down. Holding their breath, they suddenly saw the perpetrator emerge from the dust, holding on his back the unconscious body of a young brunette. Izuku saw the crowd, and gave a triumphant smile before collapsing. Looks like part of the old me is still alive, damn, thought Izuku as his conscience slipped away. Staring at the unconscious body, Ida felt a sense of guilt crawling down his back. So this is who you really are. When everyone was running away, he went in the line of fire, putting his life on the line, just to save a girl. Ida monologued. As the announcer called the end of the exam, a short, old lady arrived in scene, staring down the boy. Backbone fracture, probably from the gimmick falling in the two, not other than that he's fine. She said, kissing Izuku's body, which activated her quirk, healing his wounds. As the infirmary bits came to pick up Izuku, the pro heroes commented on his performance. That gimmick costs as much as a battleship. How in the world did that one kid destroy it? Asked one of the observers. It was that makeshift taser he made. But why would he? Asked another, wasn't his quirk enough? In the back of the room, a man, wrapped in his sleeping bag, staring at the screen smiled. Maybe he knew this world isn't all about quirks? Said the man. It's been 1 week since the exam. Izuku was anxious. He knew that his plan was gonna go down the drain if he didn't pull this off. But most importantly, it would appear as though there were still some semblance of a hero left in him. That was his biggest problem. As Izuku played with the bar's dartboard, a familiar face came to the room. And from Izuku's senses, that person wasn't happy. Izuku! Yelled Toga in a pissed-off tone. Now, Toga, I can explain, Izuku said with a hint of nervousness, but was pinned down by Toga instantly. I was one of the spectators, watching you clean house during the entrance exam, and what did I see? With another girl in your arms. I needed to increase my reputation so that no one would suspect me. Trust me, it's part of the plan. Izuku lied, trying to crawl away. Liar! Toga yelled, holding him down by the neck. Now you will pay the ultimate price. Toga, no! Izuku yelled as Toga stripped him of his shirt, revealing his bare muscular chest. Get ready! Toga yelled. No ho ho ho! Stop! Please! Stahahop! Izuku yelled as Toga started violently tickling him back. Payback, bitch! Toga yelled as Kurogiri giggled as he took a picture. Yo Izuku! A letter came from Yui, said Dabi, walking in, witnessing the intercourse unfolding before him. He stared at them in silence. If you're busy, I can come back later, said Dabi, without changing attitude as he turned around and left, putting the letter on the desk. As the fight finally ended, with the two still sorta giggly, Toga got off Izuku, rearranging herself. Well, happy? Asked Izuku, panting. Apology accepted, said Toga, returning to her usual cheerful tone. Well, good, now if you may, I have a letter to read, said Izuku, grabbing and opening the letter. After reading a few lines, a smile appeared in Izuku's face. So? Asked the villains. The infiltration had begun, said Izuku, in a triumphant tone. Yeah. The whole room cheered. Congrats, Izuku. Toga hugged him tight. Yes, congratulations indeed. Now, what are you gonna do next? Asked Tamura. Well, this is a huge step for us. I think we should celebrate, said Izuku, holding up a pint of amber beer. Cheers, yelled Toga, clanking her pint with Izuku's. As the main group was celebrating, All for One stared at him in his office. A grin appeared under his mask as he slowly put his scarred hand on Izuku's face. Perhaps I have found myself a much more worthy successor, he said to himself. He then turned his attention to Shigaraki. Still, Tamura isn't fully ruled out, but he has too many flaws. He's impatient, unstable, immature, and simply not fit as a leader. But does Izuku fit all the criteria that he doesn't? He asked himself. All for One then opened his documents. Although Izuku, Midoriya, where have I heard that name before? Though All for One. Flipping through the International Villains catalog, his eyes widened as the answer was revealed to him before his very eyes. The last name, the messy green hair, a unique and different sense of justice, it has to be. The son of Hisashi Midoriya. All for One yelled out, scrambling his head. He let out a small laugh. Now this is getting interesting. Let's see, Hisashi, if your son can accomplish what you failed, said All for One, opening a drawer with a pitch-black briefcase with a "Do Not Open" labeled onto it. All for One opened the briefcase, revealing a syringe with a white liquid inside. If this really is his final goal, then maybe he isn't the ally we think he is, said All for One. Only time will tell. It was the big day, the first day of class in Yui. Tears ran down Inko's eyes as she saw her son, dressed in Yui's school uniform, take to the door. "How long have you been dreaming for this moment, Izuku?" asked Inko, shaking with joy. Izuku sighed. "Far too long, Mom, far too long," he replied, turning around. His hand shook as he turned the knob. The old him would have been ecstatic to find out he was making it to Yui, but now, that childlike excitement is gone. "I don't particularly miss it, but damn, it really feels like I let go of a huge part of myself," thought Izuku, as the light shone through the opening door, creating a gate to his future. On his way to Yui, he was stopped by a group of familiar individuals. Izuku smiled as he ran to his former compatriots. "Sachi. Long time no see, buddy," Izuku called out. "Oh, Izabro. It's been too long," said Sachi, giving Izuku a fist bump. "I heard you were joining the League of Villains. Good luck on that, and this is?" Izuku said, looking at the girl to his right. Irina van Titiglorious," replied Sachi in a mocking tone. The girl next to him seemed real pissed off, however, and pulled the man's hair hard, causing his to squirm in pain. "It's Irina von Tescalorius. Get it wrong again and I will crush you," she said in a pissed-off tone. Yeah, whatever, German names are hard to pronounce anyway," said Sachi, not letting go of his mawkish tone. "So what are you two doing here anyway?" asked Izuku, letting out a small giggle at the two. "The League wanted to assign me on a sort of initiative mission so they could observe and classify me. Apparently my pure awesomeness was not enough to convince them, so now I have to assassinate this pro-hero named Acacia to earn their approval," explained Sachi. "And I assume that applies to Irina as well?" asked Izuku. "No, she's my supervisor. Bossy, stuck up, and super annoying," said Sachi, rolling his eyes. "Hey, keep up that attitude and I'm stuffing you into my sock," Irina responded in a pissed-off tone, before turning to Izuku. "And don't think I'm just some lackey either. I'll have you know that I'm part of the vanguards, the highest ranks in the League. And I highly suggest you kneel to your superior." Izuku smiled. "You? A vanguard?" asked Izuku. "Quit lying." Irina let out a rage-filled aura. "Me? Lying? You got guts. Don't you know who I am?" asked Irina in an intimidating tone. Suddenly, Izuku appeared behind her faster than she could register, and put her in a headlock, with a knife pointed directly into her neck. "I don't recall the faces of my inferior." "Doll Master," responded Izuku. Irina froze in shock. "It can't be," she uttered. "Hero Hunter? Ah, so you know me after all," Izuku said, letting her go. "Good, then I wish you both good luck with your mission," Izuku said with a smile. Sachi and Irina froze at the sight of his true personality. After that, Sax stopped talking, acting like he was in a hurry, and ran off. Irina quickly followed. Izuku gave a smug grin, before yelling back at them. "By the way, Acacia doesn't have crap for range and is slow as hell. Hit him from a distance," yelled Izuku, before returning on track. The school of Yui was just as impressive as the pictured online advertised. The massive building, looking more like a fancy museum than a school, stood like a titan in the fields claimed by the Hero Association. Izuku traveled down the corridors while looking at the school map. "Geez, this place is a damn labyrinth. I can't believe I'll have to take this route every day," said Izuku to himself. Reaching Class A, he immediately realized the size of the door. "Is this what they call overcompensating?" said Izuku as a huge drop of swear appeared on the back of his head. He heard some people arguing inside, and his heart nearly skipped a beat as he recognized the voice. Opening the door, his suspicions were confirmed. "For the love of all that is holy, remove your foot from the desk. It's so disrespectful to this school and the craftsman who made the desk. You're soiling this school's reputation," yelled Ida. "Like I care. What school are you from, you extra?" Katsuki yelled back with a hint of arrogance. "My name's Tenya Ida from Semi-Private Academy." Ida presented himself his formality. "Semi? A stuck-up elitist, eh? Then I should blow you to bits," Katsuki replied with less formality. Ida seemed taken aback from his statement. "You're awful. Do you really wish to become a hero?" Ida said with shock. He then turned around to notice Izuku entering the room. He quickly ran to him. "Oh, hello there." "Yeah, you presented yourself already?" said Izuku nonchalantly. "Izuku Midoriya, you perceived the true nature of the exam while I was unable to?" said Ida. "I misjudged you. While I hate to admit it, you were the superior candidate," he said with heavy heart. Izuku out his hand of Ida's shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm sure you'll get better as time goes on. We're all here to improve ourselves, right? To work to a better, more fair and equal tomorrow, looking beyond who is hero and who is villain. That's what a true hero is, isn't it?" Izuku said in an encouraging tone, while subtly defining what he thinks a real hero should be like. "Yeah, thanks," Ida replied. "Wait, who's the senpai here?" said a bystander student, watching the two of them. "Curly hair," said a familiar voice. Izuku turned around to meet face to face with the girl he just saved a few weeks ago. "Yeah, you, the plain-looking boy," she continued energetically. Izuku ignored her compliments as his eyes steered to Katsuki, staring at him with intensity. Izuku let out a sadistic grin as he blushed at the mere thought of the torment he was going to put him through. Katsuki looked at his with examining him from head to toe like he was trying to solve a riddle. 1 week ago, back at their old middle school, the teacher congratulated both Katsuki and Izuku for passing the test. On his way back home though, he noticed someone following him and walked faster. But however it was, he couldn't shake him off. Soon, his pursuer, tired of following, yelled at him out loud. "Izuku!" yelled a familiar voice as he turned around. "Kaken? What are you doing here?" Izuku asked nervously. Suddenly, Katsuki ran up to him and pinned him against the wall. "What dirty tricks did you use to get into the school?" Katsuki yelled at him. "What?" Izuku asked back, fakishly trembling. "I was supposed to be the first and only. My grand plans, you tore them to shreds." Katsuki yelled at him. "I told you to go somewhere else." Katsuki threw a punch at him, but was stopped by Izuku, holding back his fist with an impressive amount of strength. "Listen, Katsuki, I'm not gonna protest against your rage, as I also have my plans for Yui, but I will however let you know," Izuku said in a genuine tone, as he stopped faking and demonstrated a bit of his new personality. "Set some higher standards, will you? Stop looking down on inferiors while there's enough people above you to blot out the sun." Suddenly, with great speed, Izuku broke out of Katsuki's grab and snuck past him with great speed, walking away. Not only was this his first time fighting back against me, but his old personality was completely gone. He was not scared for the least bit shaking. He didn't even call me by the nickname he always calls me. There's something fishy going on. Though Katsuki, you're ready for the entrance ceremony and guidance session? I wonder what our teacher will be. Boy, am I anxious. Ochako finished. "If you're here to socialize, then get out," said a sudden voice from behind. Everyone turned to the corner of the classroom to find a sleeping bag with someone in it, a middle-aged man it seemed. He was seen sipping a juice box. "This is," he said, instantly finishing the juice box, "the hero course." "There was someone in there?" thought the class. The lanky man got up groggily, revealing his skinny figure under his tight black shirt and scarf. "It took a whole 8 seconds for you to calm down. While time is a precious resource, you're not a very rational bunch, are you?" he continued. "You're our teacher?" asked Izuku. "I'm Aizawa Shota, your homeroom teacher," he replied, shocking everyone. "Homeroom teacher?" Though everyone in the class. "Now change into your gym clothes and hurry up outside," he said abruptly. Meanwhile, All Might was in the teacher's lounge, ready the faculty register. The Yui education system is like no other, I'm correct. Today, the homeroom teacher will be conducting a test or our quirks? Izuku finished All Might's monologue as they arrived to the outside yard. "What about the entrance ceremony or guidance session?" asked Ochako. "No time to waste on that stuff if you want to become heroes," replied Aizawa in a cold tone. Yui is known for its freestyle education system that applies to the teachers as well, replied Aizawa. "Softball throwing, standing long jump, 50-meter dash, grip strength, side-to-side jumps, etc. This country still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the averages on record. The education department is still procrastinating," Aizawa explained. He then turned to Katsuki. Bakugo, how far could you throw in middle school? Asked Aizawa. 67 meter, answered Bakugo. Great, then try with your quirk, just don't leave the circle, ordered Aizawa. Katsuki clutched the softball, channeling his strength. I'll add a boom to this pitch, he thought. Die! Katsuki yelled as he threw the ball with all of his might. 705.2 meters, recorded Aizawa. Die! Thought Izuku. Wow. That kid's amazing. And we all get to freely use our quirks, you say? This hero course is awesome, cheered some students. That comment seemed to offend Aizawa, however. Awesome? Don't get your hopes up. Becoming a pro hero in 3 years? Don't think it will be all fun and games. The ones with the lowest score across the 8 events will be deemed hopeless and expelled, explained Aizawa. The whole group went silent. Did you say something? Izuku suddenly spoke up, too distracted from the notes he was taking. Aizawa-sensei, what a hassle he'll be. I feel bad for any student in his classroom. Thought All Might. What the heck is wrong with this guy? Does he show any sense of care? Yelled some of the students in the background, shocked at Izuku's composure. Aizawa smiled. Keeping your composure after all this time, I like you, all calm and composed despite an unplanned event unfolding before your eyes, said Aizawa with pride. Unplanned? I knew this was gonna happen all along, Izuku said with a joint of confusion. The class, including Aizawa, went into shock. You do? They yelled in unison. This is a hero school, isn't it? Did you really think we will just be shot out of a cannon so that we can risk our lives fighting villains? Frankly, I'm surprised you guys didn't stage an unannounced villain attack or fake a murder to test our problem-solving skills. Making a situation as real as possible can train composure to the point where you become impervious to fear, explained Izuku. Aizawa grinned with glee upon hearing this. What is your name, kid? Asked Aizawa. Izuku Midoriya. Why? Replied and asked Izuku. Listen up. This is a notebook example of a ready hero, unfazed by any dire circumstances. In such as reward, you can sit out this examination, Aizawa said, patting Izuku's head. The other students' eyes nearly bulged out of their skull. What? They yelled in unison. You son of a... Katsuki charged in, before getting stopped by several tapes. What the... I can't use my quirk, said Katsuki, confused. Because I erased it. Now get started, said Aizawa, glaring at him. So that's his quirk, erasure, the ability to erase other quirks with his mere glare. Interesting, said Izuku, sitting back and spectating the scene. That damn kid, thought some of the students, glaring at him in jealousy. Wow, he impressed the teacher just like that. He must be a very successful student back at his school, almost like a senpai? Commented Ochako. Don't be ridiculous, Ochako, he may be impressive, but he's far from a... Don't let me distract you, do your best. Izuku called out, cutting Ida off. Never mind, he does feel like a senpai. Ida changed his mind. Suddenly, Aizawa pulled out a notebook turned to Izuku. By the way, you had amazing ideas back there, mind if I note a few? Asked Aizawa. Don't you dare give that man ideas, yelled most of the students. Sitting out the exam also gave Izuku another perk. He got to examine and study the quirks of the other students. He took a particular interest in this one student named Shota Todoroki during his observation, as he displayed amazing feats and has an interesting quirk to back it up. Eventually the exams were over. Welp, that concludes the exams, and now, to tally up the scores, explained Aizawa. Most of the students were shaking anxiously, hoping not to get expelled. As the scoreboard showed up, however, Asval let out one last bit of information. By the way, I was kidding when I said I would expel the lowest score. It was just to bring out the best in all of you, explained Aizawa. The class froze. What? Izuku, however, saw through his lie. Just kidding? My ass, you did it because you thought you were being clever after I mentioned my ideas. I saw your documents. You expelled a full first-year class last year. You would have expelled, let's see, Mineta without batting an eye, thought Izuku. And that concludes the class. See you all tomorrow, Asval said, leaving nonchalantly. After his speech, he headed towards the school exit, but was stopped by All Might. May I ask you why you let Izuku off easy? Asked All Might. Izawa turned to All Might. I noticed something off about the kid. He seemed composed, rather, too composed. He claims to have predicted this event, but the only real way to know about it is to hack into the school forums. It may just be a stroke of luck, but I'm not taking any chances. I have my suspicions on him, explained Izawa. Now that you mention it, I seem to feel like I've met the kid somewhere, but can't seem to get a grasp on where, explained All Might. But keep your eye on him. There is a serial killer who knows my only weakness. We can't take any chances. Little did the two of them know, Izuku followed Izawa and overheard the entire conversation. Shit, he's onto me. No matter, I'll just have to take him out as soon as possible, said Izuku to himself. Later that day, he left the building after the first day, with his head and notebook overflowing with new information he can't wait to share with the League. So, Izubro. A familiar voice was heard. It was Sachi, and Irina was following him. Sachi, how did the mission go? Asked Izuku. Killed the target and left no trace. He replied. You have my right to be impressed, continued Irina. Of course, this operation couldn't have been successful without me. Didn't you get pinned down at least 3 times when fighting the dude? Asked Sachi. Oh, shut up, yelled Irina, pissed off. As the 3 headed off, Ochako and Ida watched from a distance. I wanted to say thank you to him for encouraging me, damn it, said Ochako in dissatisfaction. Yeah, the dude's impressive and respectful. I definitely misjudged him that other day, replied Ida, before punching a nearby tree in frustration, startling Ochako. Just how does he figure everything out so quickly when even I couldn't? Just how? Okay, Tenya-san, just breathe, okay? Breathe, said Ochako, attempting to calm him down. Back in the hideout, Izuku started working on his documents, compiling weaknesses and countermeasures to the heroes he meet that day. Let's see, Eraser Head, highly agile, quirk erasure, skilled martial artist, aims for weak points, countermeasure and weaknesses, dry eyes, low lifting strength, frail and fragile if caught. Izuku studied. Is that our next target? Asked Toga, looking over Izuku's shoulder. He obviously is. The man is on to me. So we must kill him, said Izuku. Consider it done, Toga said, shaking in excitement. Don't be so rash. The man is tough. I suggest we plan our attack in advance, responded Izuku. And what if you fail the assassination? Asked Kurogyari in curiosity. Izuku thought of that for a moment, then a grin drew on his face. I have a plan B. In case we fail to kill Izawa, I have a way to not only clear away any suspicion he has of me, but also to boost my own reputation, maybe even allowing me to access the more secret files these heroes are hiding, replied Izuku with a grin. Really? Let's hear it, said Toga with anticipation. Alright, but first, we'll need a Nomu with high physical strength and shock absorption, the trigger drug just in case, flashbangs, Toga, and a lot of fodders, said Izuku. All of that will take us at least a week to prepare, replied Kurogyari. Then that's even better, because from my recollection when hacking into the school's forums, that would be around the time we'd be participating at the disaster rescue simulation, said Izuku. Then that will be when we strike, said Kurogyari. Got it. I'll call Shigaraki for the preparations, said Toga, later Izukuin. Later. The first official day of class was as standard as any high school goes, from conventional courses like Math/English, to even P.E., which Izuku always found odd since isn't the hero training course already technically P.E.? Anyhow, it was as boring as anyone would expect, and Izuku found himself mostly taking notes the whole time off any and all school staffs and teachers. Not even the cafeteria's cook was safe from his analytical grasp. Third period rolled around, where the hero courses were supposed to begin, and Izuku has done nothing but gather info from the school. Heading to the homeroom, he bumped into Ochako by coincidence. Guess the world always find a way to stick the two together. Izuku noticed her, and quickly tried to hide his notes, but the brunette's lightning-fast eyes caught the notebook within its sight as she floated the book right out of Izuku's satchel. Hey, give that back, yelled the panicked student, trying to grab his notebook as Ochako floated it towards her. Wow, that's a lot of notes you've taken of the teachers, You even drew a sketch with vital weak points? Asked the curious brunette. Izuku tried to come up with a reason to justify his notes. You must be a super fan. I've seen people like you creep on different heroes and attempting to get anything substantial from them. I once even heard of some kid who, according to eyewitnesses, was such a big fan of All Might, he was seen grabbing onto his ankle as he leapt around the city. She continued energetically. Izuku blushed in embarrassment from her description. Can you please return me my notes? He asked. Oh, sure, said Ochako, sort of embarrassed at herself. As Izuku continued his route to his class, he noticed Katsuki sulking by his locker and decided that now was the perfect time for some payback for all those years of abuse. So Izuku bought a soda from a nearby vending machine and waited. From the notes he has taken, this was usually where Ida would walk by. Sure enough, there he was, coming from the opposite side of the hall, surrounded by at least 4 students, asking him about some math or English notion they don't understand. Izuku threw a pen at their direction, right where Katsuki was standing. Katsuki turned his head to see what that pen flying by was about and locked eyes with Ida, just as Izuku planned. Knowing Katsuki, this would probably be where Katsuki gets pissed at Ida's popularity and attempts to trip him. Sure enough, he already stuck his foot out. With the setup fully realized, he just needed to play his part. Just as Ida was coming close to Katsuki, he came running at him from another side with his soda can open. Ida, thank God you're here, how do we do the W? Izuku ran to Ida, intentionally tripping over Katsuki, flinging his arm backwards and spilling purple liquid all over Katsuki. Ida saw Izuku tripping and quickly ran to help him, but not quick enough as Katsuki picked Izuku off the ground and slammed him against a wall. You fuck. Look at what you did to me. I'm gonna break you beyond repair, you hear me? Katsuki yelled at him, as his rage caused his soda-drenched shirt to boil. Stop that right now, Ida called out. It was obvious you were the one who tripped him, now apologize. Trip him? I was gonna trip you. And he got in the way. So I should be pounding him twice as hard. Katsuki yelled, attracting the attention of everyone around him. You were what? The tall senior-looking student uttered in anger, you're despicable. Yeah. Screw you, Katsuki. Leave that poor kid alone. Yelled the girl to his right. Yeah, leave him alone. Yelled another student. You're always so loud. Can you just shut up? Yelled another one. Yeah. And to think he wants to be a hero. He should just resign before the teachers do it for him. Yelled a shorter student in the back. Yeah. Resign. Yelled another student as a mob was practically gathering around Katsuki. Resign. 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 The mob yelled in unison as Katsuki felt backed up into a corner. See, Katchin? A voice was suddenly heard behind him as Katsuki turned to see Izuku smiling. But it wasn't his usual smile. This one was cold, sadistic, beaming with twisted pleasure. No one likes you, and you still call yourself number one? Katsuki didn't have time to register as someone in the crowd threw an empty soda can on him, followed by a barrage of crumbled-up papers, apple pits, eraser head, the actual eraser head, JK, and even some quirk attacks. Fuck off! Katsuki yelled back at the crowd, hoping to silence them, but it had the opposite effect. Oh. And now he's fighting back on us. What's wrong with him? Some of the students mumbled. Katsuki was stunned. All of his life, he was used to people doing what he said, always being on the giving end, but now, being on the receiving end, he felt powerless. If he attacked, he would just be digging his grave deeper. So what could he do? Sucks, doesn't it? So, how does it feel to step into my shoes? Asked Izuku, letting out a light giggle, causing Katsuki to avert his attention to Izuku. No, you're not Deku, Katsuki uttered. What's wrong? Can't accept that you no longer scare me? What will you do now? Look around you. Everyone is against you, pinning you down and peeling away your face to reveal the giant L hidden under on your forehead. Isn't it hurtful? Cry, you miserable twat. Cry, Izuku said sadistically before breaking down into laughter. No. I am Katsuki Bakugo, the future #1 pro hero, and I will not be outshunned by you losers. So fuck off, Katsuki yelled back, louder than the crowd, before running away, trying to hide the tears running down his face. As Katsuki left, Ida, not noticing Izuku break down, ran to help Izuku up. "Here, up you go," said Ida, helping Izuku get up to his feet. "Thanks, bro," Izuku replied. "No, I should thank you for taking that fall for me," relied Ida. It's nothing, trust me. I don't think he'll be much of a hassle now that practically the whole school will hear of this," replied Izuku before walking off. "See you in class." This was what everyone in Yui signed up for and was looking forward to, the hero course. What the class was not expecting was the teacher for said course. Dashing through the door, All Might came in a spectacular fashion. "I have come through the door like normal," the number 1 pro hero chanted out as he valiantly dashed from the doorway to the podium in a mere millisecond. As the class discussed about their teacher, Izuku clenched his fist as All Might started his opening speech. "I would first like to congratulate all of you wonderful students. Not everyone makes it to Yui, you know," All Might said proudly. "Yeah, a few months ago you told me to just quit, and now look at where I'm at. Brushing it off like it never happened? Some pro hero you turned out to be," Izuku said to himself. "Not, without further ado, let's get straight to the point. Your hero course of the day will be battle training," All Might said. The class shook with excitement as several glass cases started getting shipped into the room, as they already anticipated their contents. "Our costumes?" the students thought with hype. "The costumes are all designed to fit your individual quirks and are completely under the design you have sent us. Now get changed and meet outside. This will be..." All Might's speech fades into a monologue as minutes later, the students, in their respective costumes, stepped out. First step at becoming a hero. Izuku was confused, however, as he completely forgot to send in a costume design, yet still received a costume. Not only that, but the box had a completely different design from the rest, and when he opened it, there was a note attached inside. His heart dropped like a brick when he recognized the handwriting. "Hey, Izuku, I noticed that you still didn't have a hero costume, so I sent one to you on my behalf. Be sure to try it on, I'll be watching." "God damn it, Toga," Izuku said to himself. The costume itself looked more like a Sebastian meets Neo cosplay than an actual hero costume. The long, black leather trench coat with a formal white suit underneath, complete with a butterfly knot, giving a more mobster feel. Underneath the suit were concealed weapons like knives and a gun and a syringe with a purple liquid inside that says, "Only use in emergency." "Okay, not seeing anything too embarrassing," said Izuku to himself. "Hey, who exactly is HT?" asked Ochako, running up to him. "Huh?" Izuku asked, confused. Taking off the coat, he saw a giant inked-in white text on the back of the trench coat, written "Property of HT," in a bold font. "Of course you would," Izuku murmured to himself. "Shall we begin, my students? It's time for battle training," said All Might, gathering all the attention. "Sensei, it would appear that we're in the same compound that was used in the entrance examination. Does that mean that we will once again perform another cityscape maneuver?" asked a armor-clad soldier next to Izuku, whom he recognized as Ida. "Nope, instead, you'll be moving to Step 2, Indoor Anti-Personnel Battle Training," replied All Might. While it's true that most villain battles are commonly seen outdoors, most villains statistically show up indoors. As a villain myself, I can confirm that that's true, thought Izuku. Between confinement, house arrest, black market deals, in this hero-phile society of ours, the most clever villains hide indoors, and since no current technology can generate the clever enough AI, you will be split into teams of villain and heroes and face a 2-on-2 indoor battle, explained the pro hero. "So this isn't basic battle training," commented a froggy-looking girl. "Practical experience is the best way to teach you the basics," replied All Might. It wasn't long before All Might was bombarded by a barrage of questions. Unable to keep up, All Might pleaded for the students to ask one at a time. Just then, a voice was heard in the far back of the group as a boy in a black trench coat called for everyone's attention. "I've read everything already," said Izuku, holding onto a pile of paper. "The weekly schedules? How did he get a hold of that? I had it in my..." All Might though as he suddenly realized his hand as empty. Starting from the top, Since our teacher is terrible at descriptions, this basic battle training program is meant to put our strengths, tactics, cooperation and problem-solving skills to the test. 2 teams of 2 will be put into a small building, a villain side and a hero side. The goal of the villains is to protect a bomb that will detonate if the heroes don't stop it. While there won't be an actual detonation, the bomb will emit a loud noise from its installed speakers, announcing the villain's victory, or they can win by defeating the heroes. The heroes, on the other hand, can win by securing the bomb or by incapacitating the villains. Any questions? Explained Izuku in a calm and patient manner. The whole group stood still, including Katsuki. Izuku, on the other hand, simply let out a warming smile. Well, I guess not, All Might. Will you do us the honor and draw the straws to decide the partners? Asked Izuku. He's the real teacher here, thought most of the students. Oh, of course. All Might replied, returning to consciousness after getting entranced by his speech. In the end, Izuku ended up with Ida of all people, and Katsuki ended up with Ochako. Yes, I know, it's supposed to be the other way around, but I don't care. The rest of the teams formed, they are still the same. Finally, we get to the main event. The first 2 up are? All Might said while picking into the 2 boxes. Team A on villains versus Team D on heroes. Team A? That our team, and who are we facing against? Asked Izuku. Suddenly, Izuku's heart raced as he saw his opponent, Katsuki. Izuku? Are you alright? You seem awfully giddy. Ida asked him in a worried tone. I'm fine, don't worry about me, replied Izuku. The villain goes in first, and the heroes will follow 5 minutes later. The rest of us will watch via CCTV. All Might continued to explain, Izuku, you boys need to adopt a villain mindset. This is practical experience, so don't hold back. Ida turned to Izuku. Now, listen Izuku, for someone like you, I know acting as a villain may be tough, but do your best, okay? Asked Ida. Izuku smiled back. Don't worry, I make an amazing villain impression, you'll see. Izuku replied, happy he can now be himself. Try rating my performance out of 10, okay? As Izuku and Ida entered the building, Katsuki and Ochako waited outside. The spike-haired hothead looked at the building entranced. Deku, what in the world is going on inside your head? Wait, could it be? Yo, Katsuki? Hello? You in there, buddy? Asked Ochako, trying to break him out of his entranced state. Has being admitted into Yui make him grow arrogant? He must think that he's on my level now that we're in the same school and class. Katsuki thought as he clenched his fist, then I'll just have to show you where you really belong, trash. Meanwhile, inside the building, Ida took a good look at their objective. Playing the villain role is really displeasing. This isn't even that well made of a bomb. Ida said to himself as Izuku looked out the window in anticipation. Seeing Katsuki all pumped up made him all the more excited. Without intention, Izuku let out a murderous grin and cackle that caught Ida's attention. Is everything okay, Izuku? Ida asked, confused. Oh, nothing. I was just practicing my villain acting. Izuku lied. Suddenly, the start of the training was announced by All Might from the speakers, and Izuku saw Katsuki dashing into the building, even knocking his teammate over in the process. His legs shook with excitement as he felt lightheaded from the rush of adrenaline he was getting. Damn, this is too much for me to take? No, not killing, can't fight it? Izuku was saying to himself as he bit his lips, trying to make him snap out of it. Are you okay? We can call it off if you're not feeling too good. Ida replied. Suddenly, Izuku turned around to Ida, his lively green, bloodshot eyes glare into his soul, as his smile gleamed with a murderous aura. His fists shook as he slowly turned away and walked towards the stairs without saying a word. Wow, he wasn't kidding, he's an amazing impersonator. For a minute there, I thought he was actually gonna kill someone. Back downstairs, Katsuki dashed across the building, not even slowing down to analyze anything. Suddenly, he heard a noise coming from the window. He rapidly spun around and fired an explosion towards his target. Kia! It's me, Katsuki. It's just me, yelled Ochako, nearly the top of her head burnt off. Oh, it's you, replied Katsuki nonchalantly. Not even an I'm sorry for nearly blowing your head off? Asked Ochako. Hey, it's your fault you snuck up on me like that. I'm here to Murder Deku. And nothing else, Katsuki said. Suddenly Achiko froze. It wasn't from the shock of Katsuki's aggressiveness. That, she was well aware of, rather, it was what was behind him. Kakikakatsu Katsukatsu, Achiko uttered jittering. Katsuki, confused from her initial behavior, suddenly felt a presence behind him, a bubble of aggression even larger than his. Turning around, he saw his target, but something was different. He expected Izuku to be hiding on the top floor while Ida did all the work on ground floor, but rather, Izuku arrive alone, staggering like a zombie almost. There you are, Kaken. I was thinking about you for so long, cried out. His face was blushing and his smile made him resemble more and more like Toga, but even she would ask him to tone things down a notch. What the fuck, Deku? Was the only thing Katsuki could muster out. You were such a bully back in the days, the mere thought of it pisses me off. I've been waiting for so long for payback. Every day, I would lie in bed, imagining the shock on your face as the kid you though of was nothing more than a pebble in your path became the boulder that would crush you dead in your tracks. I couldn't bear it any longer, Izuku said ecstatically, with a hint of anger, murderous intent, and lust. Upon hearing this, Katsuki took control of his anger and clenched his fist. Achiko could feel it. Katsuki wasn't any less angry than he was a few minutes earlier, but now his anger felt more controlled? Restrained? Achiko, run to the top floor. The two of us have a score to settle. Katsuki ordered at his companion. All right, Achiko said, running past Izuku, who didn't even turn around to look at her. With the two of them locked in a death stare, Katsuki finally got the courage to speak up. So I guess this is what you really thought of me, huh? Not surprising, given what I've done to you, he said in a calm and serious tone. You had no consideration for my feelings, you just didn't care. You were always so stuck up, thinking of yourself as high and mighty. It pissed me off, but I couldn't do anything about it. So you know what I did? I persevered, training day and night while you dozed off on your pedestal you claim was higher than the clouds. This is what I always wanted, what I waited from for nearly a year. You, me, one-on-one, no holding back, Izuku said, blushing furiously. Suddenly, in blinding speed, Izuku appeared right below Katsuki, delivering a vicious uppercut. So hurry up and hit me already, Izuku yelled out. Katsuki, recovering from the hit, spun around, swinging a vicious left hook at Izuku, who grabbed his arm. Suddenly, an explosion came out of the palm, forcing Izuku to pull his head back to dodge it. Katsuki then tried to uppercut him with his free hand, but Izuku dodged that one as well. Lifting Katsuki over his shoulders, he threw him over his shoulder, slamming him into the cement floor. Before Katsuki could get up, however, Izuku took advantage of the opening and kicked him in the stomach, knocking him back down, coughing. Come on. Is that all you got? Izuku yelled at him. Katsuki gritted his teeth and let out a roar as his explosion quirk ran wild, creating a huge explosion. Yeah, that's the spirit. Keep at it, Izuku said as he looked upon the destruction Katsuki made. You were always below me, always inferior, but, despite all of that, you still try to help me. Your idiotic smile, clinging on to me like you think you're my equal, despite my numerous denials. It pisses me off, Katsuki yelled out, as a murderous smile appeared on his face, as explosions surrounded the area, blowing Izuku back. Meanwhile, back on the roof, Ida stood by the bomb. Izuku is really into his villain role, so I guess it's only fitting to follow suit, right? In order to become a hero, I must cloak myself in darkness, thought Ida as he turned towards Achiko. I am the ultimate evil, Ida said, trying way too hard to sound menacing, making her chuckle. It would appear that you have come, no matter, my compatriot will have your friend taken care of any minute now. As for you, I enacted a counter-strategy and removed everything on the floor. Continued the acting villain, you've miscalculated. Hiromha, you're really committing to your role, aren't you? Back downstairs, the two rivals were neck and neck, attempting to find an opening to attack, but every time Izuku slowed down time, he found himself in an awkward position. Soon he started to run out of breath, allowing Katsuki to deliver an explosive punch to his abdomen, burning his suit and revealing his bare chest. That's it, Kaken, Show me the rage you feel when I ridiculed you. Come on. I'm still standing. Izuku yelled out, despite coughing out blood. Suddenly, Katsuki raised one of his hands. With pleasure. Izuku's eyes widened as his analyst mind allowed him to piece things together. Even the observers, including All Might, figured out what was to come. Katsuki, are you trying to kill him? All Might yelled into the intercom. Shut up, you old fart. I don't give a shit anymore if I win or not. Go to hell, Deku. Katsuki yelled as he pulled the pin, launching a huge amount of nitroglycerin at him. Izuku, witnessing the initial blast, quickly ducked under cover as a massive chunk of the building was blown away. Even Ida and Achiko felt it on the top floor. That blast was aimed directly at me. He really was trying to kill me, Izuku said to himself, comping back to his senses as a nostalgic rage returned to him. That's it. For attempting murder, Team D is disqualified. All Might called out. I don't give a crap. Katsuki yelled, loading up another shot. You're all mine. Katsuki yelled out, ignoring All Might's calls. That's it, I'm calling this off. All Might said, until a different voice was heard. Don't I got this? The voice said. Izuku? You need to get out of there. Katsuki's going to kill me? Yeah, I knew. And thus, this will be a much more realistic training exercise, replied Izuku. Izuku, why? Was all Might could get out before the feed was cut. I'm surprised you're not pissing yourself, said Katsuki, reloading a second round. Of course not, in fact, since life and death doesn't matter between us anymore. Izuku said in a far more composed manner, mind if I bent the rules a bit? Suddenly, reaching into his robe, he pulled out the syringe, which caught Katsuki's eye, who launched the second round directly at Izuku. A loud explosion was heard as the cameras on the inside were destroyed. All Might, after seeing this, got off his chair and hurried to the site, where the two were fighting. As the smoke cleared, Katsuki regained his senses. Not seeing any signs of life, he called out, Deku? No response. All right, Katsuki, keep calm. This is not happening, you hear me? This didn't just happen, Katsuki said to himself, trying to keep calm. Suddenly, he heard something coming out of the rumbles, and he, for a brief moment, felt a sense of relief. Deku? Suddenly, his pupils dilated as the thing that crawled out of the rumbles vanished, and in the blink of an eye, he looked down to see a sharp claw lodged in his abdomen. The thing still had the same facial features as the student, but its skin was a light purple and his body much more muscular. His eyes were pitch black with red pupils and his tongue hung out, blackened at the tip. Flashback. What was in the syringe you're gonna give me, boss? Izuku asked all for one. It's not complete yet, but it still works fine. I modified the trigger drug that buffs quirks by mixing it with my all-for-one's ability to give other quirks, effectively creating a quirk injection/steroid hybrid, replied the boss. Is it permanent? Asked Toga, concerned about Izuku's safety. No, only temporary, but when injected, for a brief period of time, the user will become so powerful that they lose their more human aspects, replied All for One. So they kinda turn into Nomus? Asked Toga. If that was the case, then I wouldn't have given it to you. You see, unlike Trigger, the user of this new drug is still conscious, but it does have a said list of drawbacks. Heavy strain on your body, memory blanks, but its most important weakness, it burns out my quirk after use. Looks like the whole time slow thing was fun while it lasted, Izuku thought. Katsuki was still in shock. What are you? Katsuki uttered as blood poured out of his wound. Izuku said nothing, and only gave him a grin, causing Katsuki to get angrier. Tell me, you monster. Katsuki yelled as he shot Izuku with a barrage of explosion. But as the smoke cleared, he saw not a body, but what appeared to be a turtle. Hardshell. This was only one of the new quirks Izuku received with the injection. His left hand started to contort as he raised his arm and pointed it at Katsuki. By the time he was pointing at him, his arm had morphed into a metallic amalgamation of guns, missile launchers and blades. This was his second quirk, mechanization. Arsenal Mayhem. Izuku fired a barrage of scrap metal bullets, blades and other metallic bits, as Katsuki scrambled to avoid the upcoming barrage. Sadly, he tripped due to the amount of rubbles lying nearby and fell, allowing the metal storm to catch up and consume his entire body. That should do it, Izuku said to himself. Suddenly, his eyes dilated as the man he thought was dead came charging out of the debris, bloody with metallic bits lodged in his flesh as he regained the murderous smile he had earlier. Izuku, seeing this, smiled back. Ha! Come at me. We will finish this guns blazing. Let's end this together. In a Hail Mary of glory and death, Izuku yelled out as his size and muscles practically doubled. Deku! Catch on! One of Izuku's arms turned red hot and started to glow with hair, and spikes sprouted out of his other arm while both of Katsuki's arms were glowing with nitroglycerin. As the two of them clashed, the whole building collapsed while Ida and Achiko was fighting, and the shockwave shattered the windows of all nearby building within a half-mile radius. What was that? Achiko said to herself. Take my hand, Ida called out as the building collapsed, trapping the two under a mountain of rumble. The building's collapse was the mere beginning though, as at the center of the pile of rubble lay Izuku and Katsuki, still exchanging a flurry of fists. Muda 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 were the sounds each respective fighters were making. Izuku was slowly gaining the advantage as he heard Katsuki's hands crack from hitting his body's hard shell too much and felt that he was nearly at his limit. Sadly, he also felt the drug losing effect. I've got to end this, and fast, Izuku said to himself. Just try, Katsuki said, taking advantage of the opening to land a solid hit of Izuku's cheek. Izuku spat out some blood as he felt his hard shell softening. His left arm was losing heat while his right was getting duller and his overall muscles and skin returning to normal. Knowing there was not much time left, he needed to formulate a plan. What's wrong, Deku? Out of steam? Katsuki asked. Suddenly, Izuku's punches just stopped. Not wanting to lose his advantage, he quickly delivered a quick barrage of explosive punches. Within knot strikes, Izuku was knocked off his feet. Katsuki, seeing this, rose his hands in victory. Suddenly, Izuku's eyes opened up as he gave out a smile. Don't celebrate too early now, Izuku said as he held his breath, slowing everything down to a near stop. It was a gamble, but I needed to stop punching to catch my breath. Now Kakin, you're done for? Ducking under Katsuki's fist, and channeling all of his might into his right arm. Metallic, red-hot spikes out of his right arm that regained its size and mass as he delivered a sky-shattering punch to Katsuki's stomach. With time still in slow motion and with the last remnants of his borrowed quirks vanishing, he knew it was only a matter of time before his time-slow quirk also disappeared. Slowing, walking away from the Katsuki's imploding stomach, he counted down the time before time itself speeds up to normal. 5. Izuku looked around to make sure no one else saw anything. 4. He dug under some rumble and dragged out Achiko and Ida. 3. He dug out his phone, miraculously still working, and typed a message to the League, claiming he needed a new quirk. While he knew the message will only be sent after time speeds up, he still put the phone back into his pocket. 2. He took a good look at his state and at Katsuki's. His entire top half was naked and covered with bruises and burns. Blood leaked from his head, going all the way down to his shoulder, that was also bleeding. 2 of his ribs were broken, as well as his left femur, which was cracked, and he had a really nasty burn coming from his right arm, which was unused to parry Katsuki's initial blast. Katsuki himself wasn't looking that much better, however. Metallic bits were lodged into his shoulders, his sides and left knee. He had 3 stab wounds from the initial stab Izuku took at his, as just as bruised as burnt, maybe noticeably less, but still severely, and was soon gonna have a lot of internal injuries. 1. Izuku sat cross-legged on the ground, in front of Katsuki, and waited. 0. Time came back to normal as Katsuki coughed out a carpet of blood and was sent flying through what was left of the building, smashing through the piles of debris on the way before getting embedded into the wall headfirst. His body was limp, unconscious. Guess I did it, said Izuku. Izuku! Ida and Achiko came to their senses. Are you okay? Asked Achiko, looking like a worried mother. Yeah, ask that to him, Izuku said, pointing at Katsuki. Wait, you beat him? Ida asked. Yeah, wasn't easy though, the kid is nuts. Izuku said. Suddenly Ida and Achiko both hugged him at the same time. We're so glad you're safe, Achiko said. It's fine, looks like it's all over now, said Izuku. Soon after, All Might along with a bunch of other pro heroes showed up. Recovery Girl was also there, to attend to their wounds. According to her, Katsuki might be experiencing some memory loss due to the hit to the head he received, which Izuku was glad to hear, as he wouldn't remember him using the drug. Izuku and Katsuki were later taken to the infirmary that day as the training continued as normal. Towards the end of the day, however, Izuku found out that he wasn't gonna be able to go home due to his injuries and had to stay the night. He was fine with the news, but bummed he wouldn't be able to return to the hideout. It may seem corny, but the League of Villains were like his second family now. He knows every member very well, made friends with a lot of them, even Shigaraki, and did several team-up missions with them. So despite staying at the infirmary and being showered in praises given by other students, who came in a pro congratulate him for beating Katsuki, whom everyone agreed was a jerk, he missed Kurogiri's supportive attitude, twice split personality, Spinner constant boasting, and even Shigaraki and his Shigaraki-ness. But most importantly, he missed Himiko Toga. Her smile, playfulness, and personality was always something he enjoyed after a long day at school. Later that night, when Izuku was lying in bed, however, he saw the window slip open, and the person who opened it made his almost leap with joy. I enjoyed your fight, Izuku-kun, you were pretty wild, said a familiar voice. Toga, it's so nice to see you, Izuku said. Did you like my costume design? Asked Izuku. Yeah, property of H.T was a little too much though, replied Izuku. As Toga sat in his bed, she leaned towards Izuku, placing her hand in his chest. You must have went through quite some hard time fighting that jerk. Mind if I help you relax? Asked Toga. If you're gonna tickle me when I'm helpless, then go ahead, but note that my revenge will be 10 times. Before Izuku could finish, however, Toga leaned in and kissed him. Izuku did not protest. He wrapped his working arm around Toga as she leaned closer and closer to Izuku's bare chest, as her finger traced down towards his lower abdomen, and was getting even lower. I'm glad to have met you, Toga. Joining the League of Villains was the best choice I've ever made. Yeah, I love you too, Izuku-kun,